friends and dignitaries will be saying goodbye to the matriarch of Mississauga, Hazel McCallion. Coming up, we'll have live coverage of the state funeral for the former Mississauga mayor. 3 people are dead following a late-night crash on the southbound 427 ramp to Dundas, and a 4th person remains in critical condition in hospital. And we're following the latest out of City Hall, where John Tory is still Toronto's mayor and plans to oversee tomorrow's budget meeting. We'll have the latest on this just ahead as well. It is 10 o'clock. We're sitting at 2 degrees outside from 299 Queen Street West. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jennifer Shung. Former longtime Mississauga Mayor Hazel McCallion will be remembered at a state funeral today. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are expected to be in attendance on what would have been McCallion's 102nd birthday. Members of the public, as well as politicians from all levels of government, will pack the Paramount Fine Food Centre for the 11 a.m. service. These are live shots from Chopper 24 outside Mississauga City Hall, where, as you can see, the hearse is being prepared, where it will travel to the Paramount Fine Food Centre for the state funeral, which gets underway at 11 o'clock. Our special coverage, of course, begins here at 10:30. And CP24's Beatrice Vaisman joins us live from Mississauga with more on this. And Beatrice, I've been talking to Nick all morning, saying that very rarely do we see a state funeral of this magnitude for a city mayor.
It doesn't happen very often, Jen, but of course, when it does, full flowers are given to the person, in this case, the matriarch of Mississauga, who really left an indelible legacy here. People here got used to seeing her around. They loved her very dearly here in the city of Mississauga. It was very different when she was first elected as mayor. She served for 36 years, 12 terms in total, and certainly the city grew from, just a small little enclave, Streetsville back then, to one of the largest cities in this country. When it comes to timeline, you were sharing some live pictures from Mississauga City Hall with our viewers a few minutes ago. That's where the casket will depart in roughly 20 minutes time, around 10:20. It's going to be escorted by Peel Regional Police right here to the Paramount Fine Food Centre. It's expected that journey is going to take roughly 20 minutes. And then once Hazel McCallion's body arrives here at this venue, there's going to be hundreds of people, our first responders, really paying tribute to her in an honor guard. Peel Regional Police, Mississauga Fire, Mississauga Emergency Services as well. First responders who often saw Hazel McCallion at various graduations and college events and other events. As you know, the family spokesperson told us 2 weeks ago, there was not an envelope opening that Hazel McCallion didn't like going to here in Mississauga. She is just ingrained in the very fabric of this city. And many political leaders consider her to be their mentor. I spoke to Charles Sousa, the MP for Mississauga Lakeshore, here this morning. He's the former finance minister here in Ontario, and he talked about what kind of legacy she leaves behind. Here's what he told me.
She had a tremendous impact on our community, not just on Mississauga, but really all across Canada, and even in her trips to other parts of the world. People celebrated who she was because of her tenacity and her ability and her energy. For someone who was in her 90s at the time, I recall, she outdid all of us. I mean, she put us all to shame.
And I'm starting to hear anecdotes as well, Jen, about Mayor McCallion visiting Queen's Park, for example, and all of the ministers would quickly scatter. They had somewhere they needed to go only because they didn't want to have that FaceTime with Mayor McCallion, because they knew that she would be giving them grief for comments as to how they were leading their communities or advice. And so they didn't want to hear, do your homework. If they weren't, they would scatter. And that's just the kind of person she was. Small in stature, big in tenacity, big in legacy as well that she leaves behind. When it comes to the speakers that are going to, give their remarks here today, Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell, she's going to speak, along with Premier Doug Ford, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and the current mayor of Mississauga, Bonnie Crombie, who is her successor. Hazel McCallion was her mentor. They became very close over the years. I had a chance 2 weeks ago to talk to the children of Hazel McCallion. She's got 3 kids. I spoke to her son Peter and her daughter Linda about what it means just to see this outpouring of support far and wide for their mother and how they hope she's going to be remembered moving forward. Here's what they told me.
She loved it because she liked helping people, and she also liked having her friends near her, and so she was really glad that people just came and wanted to be with her and loved talking. And I mean, mind sharp as a tack. Like, she was constantly talking either politics or, and knew everybody, and was like really happy that she did have great friends that wanted to see her and wanted to pay their respects.
And I'm hearing, Jen, she was sharp as a tack, as her daughter said, right until the very end, especially when it came to talking politics. It suddenly gave her an adrenaline boost when people like Mayor John Tory or Premier Doug Ford, who paid her a visit on the eve of her passing, when they arrived to chat with her, she came to life once again. And so that's why people are coming here today from far and wide across this province to pay their final respects to Mayor Hazel McCallion. Again, we'll bring you live coverage when the funeral service begins at 11 o'clock this morning. Back to you.
Yeah, and speaking of talking, Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie says that they still quote her every week at Mississauga City Hall. That's our Beatrice Vaisman live this morning in Mississauga. Thank you. And we're hearing a lot this morning about Hazel's legacy in Mississauga from some of the people tasked with moving it forward.
What she did for the city was in the best interest of the city, and that's how she lived her life and her legacy. She will be immortalized here in our city as our matriarch, but also as the architect of our city. Many of us chose Mississauga as the place to raise our kids, as the place to live, to work, to invest, etc., because of her vision and because of her stewardship, her tight fiscal management. And this city, not even 50 years old yet, was farmland and fruit trees 50 years ago.
Hazel McCallion had admirers across all walks of life throughout Mississauga and beyond. Mohammed Faki, the president of Paramount Fine Foods, says McCallion played a big role in his success.
Hazel used to come to Paramount when I had 4 tables, and she always came and said, you're going to do great with this business. And I used to be surprised for her to believe in me that much. But when I went back and thought about what she was saying, like having Hazel McCallion behind you, supporting you, and feeling that encouragement has pushed me so much and brought me to where I am today.
All right, and we know that our top story this morning, of course, is former longtime Mississauga Mayor Hazel McCallion being remembered at a state funeral today. Let's take you back live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman joining us from Mississauga with more with the Mayor of Brampton. Beatrice.
Yeah, I just caught Mayor Patrick Brown heading into the Paramount Fine Foods Centre. Mayor, how are you remembering Hazel McCallion this morning?
Well, I think today we're celebrating her legacy, and she was not just Mississauga's mayor, she was Canada's mayor. Everyone would jump, prime ministers, premiers. She was a force of nature, and even in her last week, she was still hands-on being a public servant. I'll share you one story in Brampton. If there was a women's hockey booking issue, she would call me and say, call this person, there's a booking issue, like literally hands-on, even at 101. So she radiated public service, and she's going to be deeply missed.
As someone who's been elected in different levels of politics, she was re-elected 12 times. I mean, how difficult is that to have the confidence of your people for 36 years?
It's unheard of. And obviously, she's someone that's going to go down in history as someone that accomplished an extraordinary amount for Mississauga. Just imagine Mississauga before she took over in the 1970s to the economic engine that it is now. That's her legacy. She changed Mississauga for the better, and everyone that I think got to spend time with her benefited from her wisdom.
As the leader of the municipality adjacent to Mississauga, you got to know her over the years as well. Long after she retired at the tender age of 93, she'd still go to events wherever she was invited. What were your interactions like with her? What kind of advice did she give to you, Mayor?
So, what was interesting about her is she understood that if Brampton succeeded and we got new businesses that benefited Mississauga, if Mississauga got new businesses that benefited Brampton, vice versa with Toronto. So she was willing to help everywhere. She would mentor our economic development department. She just wanted to pitch in. She loved doing good for the GTA, and so I really enjoyed conversations with her, and was grateful for the friendship that she showed our community.
Do you remember a key piece of advice that she gave you? Not that you need the advice, but do you remember something that she gave you that stuck with you?
I'll share one example. You know, during COVID, I would do press conferences to give an update to the city, and I'd always bring a city councillor up with me. I remember her calling me saying, keep doing that. A city council is a team, and always make sure that you highlight members of your team. And so, you know, I appreciated that wisdom because I think it spoke to how she so successfully ran her city councils for decades.
You know, I was talking to my colleague Jen back at the studio. It's not often we get a state funeral for someone who's leading a municipality. What does it say to you that, you know, we're sending her off in this way?
I think this is the gold standard of leadership, and so I think it's appropriate to have a state funeral. When you think about it, you know, you've got the Prime Minister, the Premier from different political persuasions, but they would both jump for Hazel McCallion. That says volumes. You know, she was beyond politics. She was just someone that radiated respect.
Mayor Patrick Brown, thank you so much for your time.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jen, we're showing live pictures now of the casket of Mississauga's Mayor, Hazel McCallion, the matriarch of this city, at Mississauga City Hall. That's where she was lying in repose for the last 2 days. Members of the public having the opportunity to come there to pay their respects. We saw lots of dignitaries. I was there on Sunday morning when Premier Doug Ford, various Mississauga City Councillors, past and present, Transport Minister Omar Alghabra, and many others who came there to take a moment in front of that casket to take a breath and to say goodbye, really, to a woman who meant a lot to a lot of people. She had a lot of people who she mentored as well, Jen, through the years. And that is something that I think a lot of these political leaders are taking with them, the advice that she gave them over the years.
All right, once again, you're looking at live pictures outside of Mississauga City Hall, where the casket of Hazel McCallion has just been carried into the hearse. It will be on its way to the Paramount Fine Food Center, where a state funeral is being held for her today. And earlier, Beatrice, Nick chatted with Mohammed Faki of Paramount Fine Foods, and he said that well over 2,500 to 3,000 people will be in attendance. As you mentioned, several dignitaries, political figures that we're very familiar with will be speaking and attending, including Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Premier Doug Ford, the country's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as well as former Canadian Prime Minister Jean Chrétien as well. So this just shows you the level and scale of this funeral for the mayor, the former longtime mayor of Mississauga, who retired at the tender age of 93.
No question, this is the ultimate showing of respect, Jen, for Mississauga's matriarch, Hazel McCallion, as people from all levels of government and the everyday citizens, really, whose lives she touched in many ways, are here to say thank you and to say goodbye and to give her her flowers, not only on Valentine's Day, but on her birthday, on Hazel McCallion Day. And Mohammed Faki, who you mentioned there, this is someone who came here with nothing to this country as an immigrant, and who he told me, Hazel McCallion personally encouraged him, told him to keep going, times when he was going to give up, and he quite frankly told me he wouldn't be who he is now in terms of a successful business owner if it wasn't for Hazel McCallion. He considers her to be family. I was there on Sunday during the public visitation, and he was embracing Hazel's son, Peter, her closest friend, Fran Ryder, the president of the Ontario Women's Hockey Association, and Hazel's great niece there, just both through smiles and through tears, because as I've heard from Fran Ryder, we lost her at 101, and somehow it still feels like it was too soon. It was almost as though people perceived her to be larger than life, like she would just live forever, kind of like the Queen. I'm hearing that comparison a lot, kind of like the Queen. We just expected her to be around for eternity, and that's why you're seeing just this outpouring of support and of gratitude from people from all walks of life for Hazel McCallion.
Yeah, she certainly touched so many people, Beatrice. Even Transport Minister Omar Al-Gabra, he will be present at the funeral today, and he gave a pretty funny anecdote about when he first wanted to enter politics, and he asked her for some advice, and he said something like, what should be, you know, the city's priorities or something like that, and she said, well, you better know by now if you're running. So he shared that funny piece of memories with us earlier, a few days, actually, it was shortly after she passed away, but this is a woman who really pioneered and transformed the city of Mississauga. We've heard from people that, you know, it was farmland and just a few villages, and she turned it into what it is today, a booming economy. She had so many quotes too, Beatrice, a lot of sayings and wisdoms that she would bestow on the people in her personal and professional life. One of them, which comes to mind, Aleem Kanji recited this one this morning, was she would say, think like a man, act like a lady, and work like a dog. And boy, did that really, you know, kind of encapsulate what she kind of stood for, and her no-nonsense attitude about getting things done and not putting on any fancy airs or pretending to be someone she wasn't.
And that's exactly what she encapsulated. I mean, this was a woman who her catchphrase was, do your homework. She would never show up to City Hall or to any event without having her homework done, knowing exactly why she was there, who she was there to talk to, the purpose of that event, and what needed to happen as well. We just watched, Jen, as the Prime Minister's motorcade arrived here at the Paramount Fine Food Centre as well just a few moments ago, as this casket now is making its way over here to the Paramount Fine Food Centre. It's going to be about a 20-minute journey, we're hearing. There's an escort by Peel Regional Police to get here to this venue. And this is a venue that historically is significant to Hazel McCallion's legacy as well. It was once called the Hershey Center, and this is an arena that she helped build. This is an arena that was, you know, she kind of oversaw the construction of this venue along with most other venues in Mississauga, responsible for bringing business here all together. But this is a venue where our women's hockey team won gold. Women's hockey, incredibly important to Hazel McCallion. As we've been talking about all morning, she used to play for $5 in Montreal in a league, and she was responsible for helping to bring that sport to the Olympics as well. Mohammed Faki, come on over. Come on over. We're live on CP24, my friend. Nice to see you again.
Nice seeing you.
What does it mean for you to be here, to give the ultimate send-off to someone you consider a friend, a mentor, someone who means a lot to you?
I'm very happy for her for getting a really state funeral. Like, there's nothing I would want better for her. And seeing all of you here, everyone here, the city's been busy for the last 5-6 days just to make sure that she gets what she deserves. It means the world, really. My heart is full. People are all inside, on the floor. You know, citizens from Mississauga that Hazel touched their life. They came to show support and say goodbye to her. It'll be a hard moment when she's leaving here. It'll be a very difficult one.
I was just talking to my colleague Jen, who's in the studio, about the significance of this venue. It was the Hershey Center. Now it's called the Paramount Fine Food Center. It's got essentially your business name on it. How fitting is that to come full circle, to have her here in a place that, you know, in a business that she helped you really build from the ground up?
And she actually pushed me to put my name on the building, because that's the city where I landed with no money in my pocket. And you know, it was very difficult for me when I heard that first they checked the international center, because I really, really wanted it here. And you know what? I think God has something to do with it, to have Hazel here on her last day where we can say goodbye to her in the Paramount Fine Food Center.
And the sun is shining on her and you as well on a day that would have been her 102nd birthday.
100%.
Tell me what it was like to be there on Sunday morning. I was there as you walked up to her casket and embraced her son and Fran Ryder and her great niece. What was that moment like for you, Mohammed?
It was very difficult because I was lining up with all the dignitaries that coming up, and I was telling myself, I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry. No, I'm not gonna cry, for sure, I'm gonna stay strong. And as soon as I saw and I was facing Hazel there, it was very difficult. It was really difficult because, you know, you feel like I wish I could have spent half hour with her the last time I saw her and learned a little bit more of her. But you know what? She lived an amazing life, and you know, she touched many, many lives. Many people are emailing me and telling me story how Hazel touched their life. You know, it's a beautiful life that deserves to be celebrated. And you know, saying that, the city of Mississauga, the staff at the city of Mississauga, they have done such an amazing work to put this beautiful event for her. I'm so proud of them, but so proud and happy for her too.
I know you aren't speaking at the service today, but if you were, what would you say? How would you send your friend off?
Well, I would say to her, thank you. Thank you so much for touching everyone's life. Thank you for the leadership. We felt safe. We felt safe even when politicians said something. They were worrying about Hazel McCallion weighing into what they said. And we felt that there was someone out there that just really want to help the people. Like after she left the city job, she went and sat on many boards. She wanted the GTAA airport to be the best. She wanted to help everyone. And most importantly, she continued meeting with people at Tim Hortons in the morning and giving me the time that I enjoyed so much, for sure, and she made me feel like she enjoyed it, but for sure I enjoyed it much more, and I look forward. I'm gonna miss it so much. Like many, many mornings I wake up and I say, you know, I can't see her, I can't have lunch with her, I can't have dinner with her, but to my best friend and mentor, I love you, and I'll love you for many, many, many years to come. But I'm very happy for you for getting this amazing, amazing funeral with the whole country and even beyond, is celebrating your life.
What do you think it would have meant to her? I know she was involved in the planning, but what do you think it would have meant to her to hear from the Prime Minister here, you know, the person who leads this country here, to pay tribute to this woman who dedicated her life to public service?
Well, Hazel had a lot of respect for everyone's position that they held. So, but Hazel is not about who showed up and their level and what they occupy as a job. Hazel always talked about legacy. And it doesn't matter what job and how big your job, if you do not have a good legacy, to Hazel won't be more important than other people who has done great work for the people, for the poor, for the people who are in need, the people who took real stand in life and took a real position. Hazel was very special, and she'll continue being very special to all of us, for sure.
Well, I thank you so much over the last couple of weeks sharing stories about your special friend. Really appreciate it, Mohammed. Thank you so much. Thank you. So again, the casket of Hazel McCallion now on its way here to the Paramount Fine Food Center. You heard Mohammed talk about how special it is to have this ceremony, this service here with his business name on the front of it, the Paramount Fine Food Center. He's the president of Paramount Fine Foods. They developed quite the friendship, quite the relationship over the years, Jen, and it's just a testament to Hazel McCallion's not only leadership, but her humanity and reaching out to these newcomers to this country, these new business owners, and really uplifting them and encouraging them to keep going as well, Jen.
Yes, and she had so many personal achievements, you know, Order of Canada. She was on so many boards even after she retired. And, you know, you talk about establishments like the Paramount Fine Food Center, you know, which is Mohammed Faki's business and in his name. But Hazel McCallion has so many marks, so many, I guess, places of Mississauga that are known to people, such as the library, the transit line named in her honor. So she really is an indelible part of this city. Even though she's passed, she will always be remembered in this place that she really cultivated from the time she entered office in 1978, serving up until 2014. And I think perhaps what she is also best known for is that Mississauga miracle back in 1979, when she helped evacuate more than 230,000 city residents because of all the chemical and chlorine that exploded from those trains crashing. So that became kind of the blueprint for other cities on how to evacuate residents safely. But even operating a city budget debt-free for so many years is something that our city of Toronto can take note of now that we're talking about a city budget. And we mentioned a few dignitaries, but I should also mention that Mayor John Tory will be in attendance at her funeral. We saw images of him paying respect to her at Mississauga City Hall a few days ago, but he will not be speaking today given the news of his resignation last Friday, but he will be in attendance, right, Beatrice?
He will be in attendance, Jen. And to be frank, Mayor John Tory and Hazel McCallion had an incredibly close relationship. Mayor Tory was someone that Hazel McCallion personally requested to see at the hospital over Christmas when she was very ill, Jen. She wanted to see him, and he came there, and he was half an hour late. And I heard from the family spokesperson that Hazel McCallion, in her hospital bed, gave Mayor John Tory grief for being half an hour late for that meeting. It's just who she was. She expected people to be on time, to be present, and we're watching, Jen, the bagpipes and the procession now getting closer and closer to the Paramount Fine Food Center as Mayor Hazel McCallion's body will be arriving here momentarily, and then we'll see the service start, a service that she had every hand in crafting and creating to make the send-off that she felt was fit for her, and that, you know, the entire country feels is fit for a mayor who really gave it her all for a really long time, Jen.
Yeah, she really did. Her dedication to public service, it was really not just a sacrifice of her time, but of course she had a family. She was a family woman with 3 children, Paul, Linda, Peter. She has a granddaughter named Erica, but they said that their mother would always make dinner, make time for them, despite her very full-time job at Mississauga City Hall. So this is a woman that just gave herself wholeheartedly to the city, to her own family, but continued serving in whatever role she could after resigning when she was 93 years old. So many people are saying that she had such a sharp mind. She radiated public service, was very hands-on, and like you mentioned just now, not afraid to speak her mind, even reminding Mayor John Tory that he was late and that he shouldn't be. So definitely a force that to be reckoned with, and someone we will probably not see anytime soon in this lifetime, being likened to, you know, the passing of Queen Elizabeth II because of what a constant figure she has been for the city of Mississauga and so much more. Once again, these are live pictures that we're seeing of the bagpipers play as the funeral will begin in about 33 minutes time at the Paramount Fine Food Center. Over 2,500 to 3,000 people will be in attendance, including several familiar faces in politics and friends and family as well. Okay, let's bring in CP24's Nick Dixon. Nick, you've been live outside of the Paramount Fine Food Center all morning long, just chatting with so many friends, and I guess you could say former business colleagues who knew Hazel and can really attest. I mean, across the board, everyone has a similar thing to say about her, and that was just her conviction, the way she was just so confident and spoke her mind, but also her dedication to public life, public service, and what she created and turned the city of Mississauga into.
Absolutely, Jen. You know, I spoke to someone this morning who said, you know, no one has a bad word to say about Hazel McCallion, and that is certainly, you know, rung true for the last couple of weeks, but really for, you know, her lifetime, right? I mean, just people respected the job she did, the way she handled people, that she didn't suffer fools. She was a sort of straight shooter who told you where you stood and you knew where she stood. And right now, watching this guard go by here, the pipes and drums of St. Andrews of Mississauga, it's pretty remarkable watching this happen right now. It's really beyond the drums. It's really fallen silent outside the Paramount Fine Food Center right now. But yeah, I mean, when you go back and think about all of Hazel McCallion's accomplishments, 36 years as mayor of Mississauga, growing it to the 6th largest city in the country, and of course, you know, the tributes have been, you know, accolades from people we've spoken to today, from the current mayor, you know, Bonnie Crombie, who said she learned so much about leadership and about the job of mayor from Bonnie Crombie. She, of course, received an endorsement from Hazel McCallion, of course, in 2014 when Hazel McCallion finally said said that she was going to leave the role. But then we also heard from so many other people, people like Mohamed Faki, about what she gave to him in terms of her ability to run his business and start his business here. And even the family friend, Jim Murray, was talking about how she planned every detail of this. And she was so instrumental in her own funeral here. And this is what we're seeing playing out right now before our cameras. This has all been part of what Hazel has planned. Let's listen in a little bit for a moment. Okay, so we've got the honor guard here waiting outside the Paramount Fine Food Center right now, and we are, of course, waiting for the arrival of the hearse carrying Hazel McCallion and the cortege. Along with that, it's you could hear a pin drop out here right now as we take a look at this honor guard. With Caledon Fire, Peel Fire, RCMP, and many other first responders here, all lining the route here outside the Paramount Fine Food Center, waiting for Hazel McCallion to arrive here. Really, it is quite a remarkable moment, and again, it is absolutely dead quiet here right now. Jen.
Wow, yeah, and Nick, earlier you were speaking to Mohamed Faki of Paramount Fine Foods, and he says that, over 2,000 people will be in attendance, and we do know that this funeral is open to the public as well. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, anybody was able to get tickets. There's room for about 5,000 people. Mohamed Faki telling me that around 3,000 people are expected inside there today. This was a free event for people to come, and this is what Hazel McCallion had, of course, wanted, so that people could, if they felt like it, come out and pay tribute to her legacy. And it seems, again, that we are expecting, like I said, a few thousand people here. I'm on a different side of the entranceway right now, so I can't give you a sense of how many people have come in, but there has certainly been a really steady stream of not only everyday citizens of Mississauga, Peel region, and the GTA, but also, really a who's who of political people from across the spectrum. Charles Sousa, the current MP, who won in a recent by-election. I just saw the former Premier Ernie Eves arriving as well, and of course we know, Prime Minister Trudeau, former Prime Minister Chrétien, Doug Ford, Premier Ford, along with Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell. Really, this will be really representative of the way that Hazel McCallion was able to, regardless of party affiliation, regardless of where you were on the political spectrum, the respect that she earned and the respect that she had from so many people is really on display here today. And again, here we're just watching and waiting as this honor guard stands guard outside the Paramount Fine Food Center ahead of her state funeral. Right,
much like her beloved nickname, Hurricane Hazel, like a hurricane, she transcended those political party lines. And I want to read out a tweet from Premier Doug Ford on what would have been today Hazel McCallion's 102nd birthday. Premier Ford tweeting today on what would have been her 102nd birthday. Thousands of people will come together to pay tribute and remember the incredible life of my amazing friend Hazel. Hazel, you are greatly missed. Your legacy will inspire generations to come. And Nick, when Hazel was celebrating, I believe it was her 101st birthday or her 100-year-old birthday, I can't remember because the pandemic has just completely thrown off my sense of time. But I remember it was pandemic restrictions, but people would be stopping by outside of her house, dropping off gifts, wishing her happy birthday. And even from that day, it was very evident the level of love and support that she got from family, friends, just regular Mississauga residents who knew of her contribution. I mean, the city is just a monument to her existence, with the public school being named after her, that LRT line, as well as a secondary school. So it's no doubt she has left her mark on this city, which is now the 6th largest, as you mentioned, in Canada. So talk about a legacy.
Indeed. I mean, and you talk about, what we heard from people today, throughout the day. If you don't know, I mean, in 1978, when Hazel McCallion first became mayor, Mississauga was a whole lot of farmland, right? And it has been developed, I mean, into, this sort of industrial, suburban, mega city, really, 6th largest in Canada, as you referenced there, right? I mean, it is absolutely enormous. And so much of that is really a testament to what Hazel McCallion did over her 36, years in office as the mayor of this city. It seemed for a time that she would never not be the mayor. Of course, she decided, at 93 in 2014 that this was it. But, you mentioned her 100th birthday. And that it took place in pandemic times, Jennifer, and indeed it was sort of like a bit of a drive-by kind of a celebration, which people were doing at the time. But even this morning, we were running that clip from when she was talking about celebrating her 99th birthday, which of course would take us, to pre-pandemic times, and the busy schedule that she was still keeping, talking about, she was going to be here at the Paramount Fine Food Center that evening to drop the puck at a hockey game, because hockey was something that she was so passionate about, particularly women's hockey. And, a lot of people are suggesting and saying that, there wouldn't be women's hockey at the Olympics now were it not for the efforts of Hazel McCallion, along with her very close friend Fran Ryder, who they became friends through hockey. So like you said, the tentacles, as it were, of Hazel McCallion, what she's touched and the reach she had and the impact she had is just spectacular. And that's why we are seeing this kind of turnout, this level of state funeral again for a municipal mayor. It is just it's something that she earned over her career. It's something that she continued to do and beyond her political life. She was sitting on boards. Premier Doug Ford relied on her as a bit of an advisor and a mentor, and he asked her to serve on various boards. So there was just an incredible body of work from Hazel McCallion, someone who didn't still need to do the work, but she seemed to thrive it. She seemed to love it. I said earlier today, it seemed like retirement, wasn't even part of Hazel McCallion's vocabulary. And but respect certainly was, and we're seeing that respect in spades here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to remember that she came upon the political scene at a time in Canada when women weren't very welcomed in the political scene, and yet over time people grew to respect her. Not only that, but perhaps fear her a bit. And just looking back at some of the articles I'm reading about her, in her own words, she says that her internal clock was pretty reliable. She was a woman of habit who would start the day off by making a hearty breakfast, the most important meal of the day, she would say. Read the 3 newspapers that were delivered to her home. She said she read all her mail, responded to letters from residents, signed a large volume of correspondence and official documents, and had to do a lot of dictating. Then she actually named her dog Hurricane after her own nickname, for a walk after her morning ritual of visiting. She had a garden that she really loved, and then she would go to work directly to City Hall, a 10-minute drive from her house, and just get to the business of the order of the day.
Well, that's the thing. She went to work and she did the work and she put in the work. I mean, that old school work ethic, right? As you mentioned, the idea of reading the 3 papers and being as up to speed on all the issues as you needed to be to execute that job so well. And I mean, you don't get reelected as many times as Hazel did without earning that respect and earning that trust of the residents of the municipality, right? I mean, Mississauga residents felt in good hands with Hazel McCallion, and the results, we're seeing the results and walking through, driving through, seeing the results of Mississauga today. As I take a look here, even just from the Paramount Fine Food Center, this was the Hershey Center originally. This was, something she pushed so hard for. And, we saw some hockey championships, like world championships here. You look around, I can see the skyline of Toronto, but in between here and Toronto, I'm seeing the skyline of Mississauga. The developments that have gone up here, whether it's, residential or industrial, right? The marks left and the imprint of what she was able to achieve in her time in office and even beyond, and her outright just die-hard support of Mississauga, of this as a place. She jokingly referred to Toronto as the bedroom community next door, but this, of course, is the bedroom community. And so here we go. We're now watching the arrival of the cortege here. So I'm going to let everyone listen in as this unfolds in front of us now.
Okay, so once again, we're looking at live images outside of the Paramount Fine Food Center where a state funeral will be held for former longtime Mississauga Mayor Hazel McCallion. Here's a live shot of a wide shot of the Paramount Fine Food Center. A lot of cars in the parking lot. Let's bring in CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. Beatrice, tell us where you are right now and what you're seeing, what your vantage point is.
I've got a similar vantage point to our Nick Dixon. Jen, I just watched the procession go right by us. Of course, the bagpipes, the hearse led by Peel Regional Police escort. As Nick was describing, it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop in that moment. The vehicle behind the hearse, presumably containing the family of Hazel McCallion. She's got 3 children, 2 of whom have been, talking to media since Hazel passed away just over a couple weeks ago now, talking about the fact that they're at peace, knowing their mom is at peace as well now. And we're watching the bagpipes and bagpipers walk by us, along with first responders who are now going to file into the Paramount Fine Food Center as the ceremony is now just under half an hour away. This will be the final farewell to Hazel McCallion, and as we've been talking about all morning, she had a hand in planning this. She knew exactly who she wanted to speak. She knew exactly which hymns she wanted to be a part of this, which scriptures she wanted to be a part of this as well. And this was a woman who was sharp as a tack right until the very end. She was pragmatic and realistic, is what we're hearing. She knew her diagnosis was not good. And so despite the fact that she was so ill, her family spokesperson, Jim Murray, telling me over the weekend, she wanted to be kept in the loop till the very end about what was going to happen at her celebration of life. We talked about her 100th birthday celebration. I was there that day. I had the honor of meeting Hazel for the first time and interviewing her for the one and only time I've had a chance to get some FaceTime with her. And she's just larger than life. Like, to be in her presence, you really knew that you were in front of someone special, someone who carried with them a lot of life experience and wisdom, but also a lot of care, and someone who wanted to impart that wisdom on others as well. She wasn't one of those greedy people who wanted to keep all the secrets for herself. No, she was quite the opposite. She was eager to share advice and to share her stories and her memories and let people in. And I think that's a true testament to her legacy and to her gift. She was a uniter. She was someone who was always very open, no matter which political stripe someone belonged to. She talked to liberals, she talked to conservatives, she would quite frankly talk to anyone who would seek her advice, and many of them did. I was talking to Jim Murray, the family spokesperson, over the weekend at Mississauga City Hall. And he was telling me about the friendship that Hazel McCallion and Mayor John Tory developed over the years. And in that, he told me about the first time Mayor John Tory was seeking political office when it comes to municipal politics. He went over to meet with Hazel McCallion, and he asked her for advice. Mayor, what can I do to get elected here? And according to Jim Murray, Mayor McCallion told him that he should start door knocking, going business to business, talking to these business owners, letting them know that he was there, that he was running. And her advice to him, now I don't know if I'm divulging some state secrets here, but her advice to him was take a picture with this business owner, print it out, and bring it back to them. And you'll see they'll put it behind the counter, behind the register, and now they'll become essentially a spokesperson for you, because any customer who comes in thereafter is going to see your picture there with the business owner behind the cash register, and it just increases public awareness about who you are and will essentially create some votes. And so Mayor Tory, according to Jim Murray, said, hey, that's a good idea. And that's how that kind of partnership started, in terms of the mayor seeking advice from Hazel McCallion many times over the years, as did everyone. I mean, we heard from Charles Sousa, former finance minister here in this province, someone who got to know Hazel McCallion essentially right after his university days. He was a liberal. She would give him advice often, and often an earful as well, about particularly handling the province's coffers and minding his pennies. And then you've got people like Doug Ford, a conservative, who she had a close relationship with as well, very close to the point that he was with her the evening before she passed away for 2 hours. And so Hazel McCallion didn't discriminate based on where one's political lines were or political favors were. She was open and eager to talk to anyone and everyone, and right until the very end, politics was her love. It's where she got her adrenaline, it's where she got her comfort, it's what she knew best, and what she loved the most, fighting for the people that, you know, are part of her community, fighting for the people who needed her help, and where she really knew she would make a difference in the lives of everyday citizens, Jen.
Yeah, absolutely, Beatrice. She was so generous with her time and her advice, and was really a mentor to so many of the political figures we know and see today. And, you know, she really liked to share her leadership tips with young people. One time she said that, you know, good leaders lead by example. A great leader is never merely an observer and does not wait for things to improve, but acts to improve things. A good leader is able to communicate a vision and is able to motivate and inspire others to succeed. And we talk about how hands-on she is. Well, she wasn't just hands-on at work in the political sphere. She was also hands-on at home. I don't think many people know this, but she did her own grocery shopping, her own cleaning, gardening, all that stuff. So let's bring in CP24's Nick Dixon. Nick, we're looking at live shots inside the Paramount Fine Food Center, where a lady is playing on the flute right now, and we can see many people, thousands of people, in fact, have taken their seats, and we're looking at images of Hazel McCallion through the years on those screens.
Pretty remarkable. There she is throwing out the first pitch at a Blue Jays game as well. I mean, and her career and legacy really is really lit up in these pictures. We had some amazing, you know, historical images as well today, you know, on breakfast and throughout the program, just sort of, you know, highlighting and showing that just you know, Hazel McCallion, you know, her entire adult life, it seemed, was in front of our eyes, you know, her political career and then post-political career. And, you know, you talked about, or Beatrice was talking about the inspiration that she provided to so many. Well, it's clear that that inspiration is now transcending into respect, and people coming out to honor her legacy here. You know, the rows are really filling up inside the Paramount Fine Food Center here. And I can tell you, as the first responders that were part of the honor guard this morning were walking in, I was standing right beside them as that wrapped up, and they walked up the steps here. And, you know, you could see it in their eyes. They really felt the significance of being a part of that. You could see that they understood that they were here for a really historic moment for the city of Mississauga, you know, remembering and honoring somebody who, you know, we're never going to see the likes of again, almost undoubtedly here. And it's the setup inside. Mohammed Faki did tell me today that it was going to be beautiful. And looking at these pictures now from inside, it is remarkably set up, a perfect tribute, really, to Mayor Hazel McCallion, Hurricane Hazel, as she's been often referred to. And as we get ready to wait and watch, we also have to keep in mind, like we've been saying, all of the details, every sort of note of what we're going to see unfold here at the state funeral coming up in about 10 minutes' time. That has all been basically designated and chosen and, you know, okayed, as it were, by Hazel McCallion, Jen. So really her while she may not be here in person, she's definitely here in spirit. And all we're going to see today is going to really echo what we've come to know from Hazel McCallion.
Yeah, we're certainly going to be hearing, you know, a recounting of all the stories, perhaps, you know, new ones and old ones from all the people who are set to speak. Musicians singing right now inside the Paramount Fine Food Center. But we know that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is going to be there. Ontario's Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell, she always speaks so well. And of course, Prime Minister, or former Prime Minister, I should say, Jean Chrétien is also supposed to be there. Mayor John Tory, as we mentioned, will be in attendance, but is no longer speaking given his surprise resignation or announcement of resignation last Friday. But going back to Hazel McCallion, this is a woman who dedicated 36 years of her life to service from 1978 to 2014. And she accomplished so much, turning Mississauga into the 6th largest city. Now, the one thing she said that she's always wanted to do, her bucket list item that didn't get done, but she always hoped for, was for Mississauga to be its own city and not be a part of Peel region, given its economic success. But overall, she said it's been a great life. She is proud of all the things she's accomplished, especially that 1979 Mississauga train derailment when the chemicals and chlorine were spilled, and she basically safely evacuated 230,000 city residents. No one was injured or hurt, and that really became a blueprint for other cities to look to when it comes to safety and evacuating people during emergency situations like that. But Nick, I was telling Beatrice, I mean, this woman was hands-on. You think that a woman so busy, waking up to meet people for breakfast, because she just said, you know, sometimes there's not enough time in the rest of the day, so we'd have to meet at breakfast time, was someone who also did everything herself at home, a busy mother of 3, cooking, cleaning, gardening, shopping. I mean, it wasn't just hands-on at work, it was really hands-on at home. And for a woman to enter politics at that time in Canada, when we didn't see so many female politicians, that really says a lot about who she was and what she was able to accomplish.
It certainly does. I mean, it is incredible. And you know, Bonnie Crombie, the current mayor of Mississauga, who was, of course, endorsed by Hazel McCallion, spoke about, you know, the legacy she's left behind and how she built up Mississauga. And there is no doubt, you know, throughout this city, throughout this municipality, what this city has become. I mean, it is, you know, the 6th largest in the country. That's no small feat. And it was done by, you know, somebody who may be small in stature, but incredibly, you know, large, as we've, you know, heard stories. And Beatrice has been speaking to some of the local politicians, too, here, like Patrick Brown or other, you know, MPPs down at Queen's Park, who would sort of scurry when they knew Hazel McCallion was coming, because she knew that she was likely as on top of the file as they were, regardless of what it was, and it was obviously all passionately directed towards, you know, the benefit of Mississauga and residents of Mississauga here. So that was always first and foremost for her. But again, the other sides of her life, like you mentioned, Jen, just how she, you know, was doing it all at home as well too. It's really something, kind of a Renaissance woman, as it were, but also a woman who just rose to such the top levels here in Mississauga, and earned the respect that we're seeing here today.
Yeah, there's really a consensus, Nick, among the people you've spoken to all morning long about her character, about her perseverance, about how she spoke her mind. Let's bring in CP24's Beatrice Vaisman right now. Beatrice, you got a chance to speak to Hazel McCallion's children before. Do you know if they'll be speaking at her funeral today?
They're not on the rundown, Jen, in the order of service. Her children are not listed. But Peter McCallion and his sister Linda, who I had a chance to talk to just over 2 weeks ago, the day of Hazel McCallion's passing, I was really struck by almost how matter-of-fact they were about it. I mean, listen, the reality is, no matter how long you want someone to live, 101 is just such a fantastic life. And I think her children really recognize that, of course, despite the fact that they would have wanted her to live into eternity. They were quite pragmatic about what was going on. And I was really struck, especially when her daughter was telling me about an anecdote, saying that, you know, her mother is now with her father, who passed away many, many years ago. And she talked about the fact that she asked her mother if she would ever marry again. And Hazel McCallion would say, the first time I married for love, the second time I'm going to marry for money. And so far I haven't found anyone who's rich enough. And so it was the ultimate love story for Hazel McCallion and her husband. And so she really focused on marrying her work, her service after his passing. She really just dedicated herself wholeheartedly to this. Keep in mind, she wasn't someone who started in politics young. She started in her late 50s, Jen. So this is someone who found, kind of, as to use Nick's words, a renaissance, a second coming in her 50s to really take the helm of the city of Mississauga, take it under her wing, and really just start building it from the ground up. Keep in mind, back in the 70s, there were not a lot of women in politics, not a lot of women in these power positions. And so when the train derailment happened in the late 70s, and she really was at the forefront of that disaster, making sure that the people here of her community were taken care of, she really, I think, gained a lot of respect from a lot of people. And I think they really got a chance to see what a woman, when given the chance in politics, could do. And so from then on, she was just viewed as this powerhouse, someone who was reelected 12 times. She was acclaimed twice when no one dared run against her, but all the other times she was reelected by the people here in this city. It's difficult enough to be elected once, never mind 12 times in total. But the thing that I found most interesting, Jen, was that she never ran a campaign after her first one. She never printed brochures. She never put up street signs or signs on people's lawns. She didn't want to waste the cash. So she really just focused on running on her own record, Jen. And so that's something that's so powerful. She ran on her own merits. She said, I was elected to be mayor, not to run campaigns. And that's a true testament as to who Hazel McCallion was as a person, as a leader, as a political figure, as well as we watch her casket now arriving here at the Paramount Fine Food Center in Mississauga, a place that she loved, a place that she built, really, Jen, from the start.
Wow, and we're really looking at some of these, I guess, never before seen photos of Hazel McCallion as a youngster in her childhood years. Hazel McCallion on a horse. We know that she was an athlete. She played hockey for $5. Was really a champion of the sport. Let's bring in Nick Dixon once again. You know, the Paramount Fine Food Center really filling up now. Thousands of people. You got to think a career in office of 36 years. How many lives she must have touched and continues to touch today, Nick?
Well, of course, and you know, she was a councillor prior to that, and then beyond her political life after 2014, she still remained so active. And so, you know, the span of her career, we focus so much on those 36 years as mayor, but it is so significantly longer than that, and that really is why you're seeing this. I mean, to get to the level of a state funeral for a municipal mayor is such a rarity here, and to have, you know, the likes of a former prime minister like Jean Chrétien here, who Jim Murray, the family spokesman, telling me that as soon as you know, they found out, he said, "I will be there. I will be at Hazel's funeral regardless. You let me know, I'm going to be there." It was that important to somebody like Jean Chrétien, and of course to be having tributes coming in from Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowswell, from Premier Ford, from current Prime Minister, of course, you know, Justin Trudeau as well, you know, and of course Mayor Bonnie Crombie will be speaking as well here. You know, that's an absolute tribute to the range of people who not only have confided in Hazel, but look to her for some mentorship as well. And she's done so much and touched so many people that's why we're seeing what we're seeing here. You know, even these chopper shots in this B-roll of Mississauga, the growth that this city has seen under the stewardship and foresight, really. You know, these things don't happen overnight. You know, what's been accomplished in 36 years and beyond. So much in part thanks to Hazel McCallion is you know, we're seeing it now, and you know, you may take it for granted, but you know, when you look around the city of Mississauga like I'm doing right now, and you can see what the city has become, it is certainly amazing, and to think that she was so instrumental in what we're seeing here. So we're just kind of watching right now as we await the casket arriving inside the Paramount Fine Food Center. But take a look at that. I mean, it is filled up, as Mohammed Faki said to me earlier today, around 2,500 to 3,000 people expected. He said he's got a staff in there of around 300, you know, preparing some food and coffee, etc. for the guests here today. This state funeral is expected to go for about 2 hours, and you know, it'll be really fascinating just to hear the tributes and memories from, again, that diverse range of people here. And again, it is expected to get underway, Jen, in about 2 minutes' time.
Okay, beginning very shortly. And before it does, just a quick recap. We know that Hazel McCallion would have been 102 years old today. She was born February 14th, 1921 in Port Daniel. This is a farm and fishing town on Quebec's Gaspé Peninsula. Hazel Journeau, as she was called, the youngest of 5 kids. And, you know, Nick, she really picked up her business acumen and I guess the preparation for her political career at a young age when she was working in the grocery shop with her father, Herbert. He ran that for fishermen whose catches fed his fishing processing plant. And then she went to secretarial school in Montreal. And then the firm that she was working for won a contract to build the world's first synthetic rubber plant in Sarnia. That's when she actually moved to Toronto to set up her office.
Earned a bit of a living at, you know, back in the day, she was getting paid $5 a game to play. You know, she was, and her athleticism, you know, even in her later years, you know, we've been showing visuals earlier today of Hazel McCallion on rollerblades in her 80s, and she was, you know, even people said, you know, she ran with the Olympic torch, you know, back in 2010, you know, those sorts of things. People said they had to, you know, hustle to keep up with her. Like, the energy she had was just so exuberant and so genuine, right? She just had this gusto and lust for life and want to do what she could for the residents of Mississauga. And it's those residents now of Mississauga and the GTA and beyond who have seen her impact and who have, you know, felt that it was important enough that they wanted to be here today to pay their final respects to her. You know, so many people had the opportunity while she was lying in respite over the past 2 days at Mississauga City Centre. Thousands also showed up to that. But again, thousands today coming to spend these 2 hours here for this state funeral, which should be quite a remarkable affair. We can see, it looks like the bagpiper getting ready, and now we can see the Canadian flag over Mayor Hazel McCallion's casket as it is now starting to come in to the Paramount Fine Food Center.
Good morning. Do your homework. Yes, that's exactly what I said. Do your homework. It was Hazel's most famous line, and the advice she gave to anybody who came to deal with her. So much so, that one time, she sent a cabinet minister a t-shirt that she'd had made up that said, "Do your homework." Because she was having a meeting with him and she didn't think he'd quite done his homework. He got the message. Good morning, my name is Jim Murray, and I'd like to welcome you all here today for the Hazel McCallion State Funeral and a celebration of life on this, Hazel's 102nd birthday. And this clearly would have been her largest birthday celebration ever. Hazel asked two people in Mississauga if we take charge of organizing a funeral and celebration of life for her at the appropriate time, whatever that might be. My equal partner in that task is David O'Brien, former city manager, who could not be here today, but who has been invaluable in this planning. I thank him for all his contributions on behalf of Mississauga. He was Hazel's closest political advisor, and since he came to Mississauga, he has done that relentlessly for nearly 30 years. I mentioned doing your homework because it's clear to me that all of you here today have done your homework, or you wouldn't be here. You came to the clear conclusion that we all needed to be here today to pay our respects to Hazel McCallion and to honor her life and the enormous contribution she made to the city of Mississauga as the architect of this city. We are pleased to be joined today by Anglican Bishop Andrew Asbill, who is the Chief Pastor of the Toronto Diocese of the Anglican Church of Canada, with pastoral oversight of 102 regional parishes. Bishop Asbill has been the diocese bishop since January 1st, 2019, and he will offer an opening prayer along with some of his own comments. Pastor?
Every once in a while, there are moments in our lives when we recognize how important someone has been to us. And this is such a moment. There are very few of us in this room who have the sphere of influence to be able to summon leaders from across our land. Lieutenant Governor, Prime Ministers past and present, our Premier, our Mayor, and leaders in our communities to speak into this moment. And very few of us have the sway to be able to summon thousands of people to come and to mark this moment and to acknowledge how important one particular soul has been to us. And Hazel McCallion is such a soul. This is a day when we are able, in tribute and remembrance, to mark just how important she was in shaping us as citizens, as constituents, as colleagues, as friends and family. But also gives us opportunity in turn to remember how we shaped and changed her too. And this day also gives us opportunity to mark and give thanks to God for her life and the way that she lived it with us. And her faith as a Christian in the Anglican tradition was so important to her, like a hearth in a home that brings warmth and meaning. It fueled her sense of devotion, lifelong in serving community, of loving God, loving neighbor, loving herself. And so as a beginning, I offer two prayers that come from the Anglican tradition, words that would have been very familiar to Hazel. One is a prayer for us who continue our pilgrimage, and one commending her soul to God's keeping. And whatever your faith tradition or your expression, I invite you in this time simply to be present in this moment of stillness. Let us pray. God of grace and glory, we thank you for Hazel, who was so near and dear to us, and who is now being taken from us. We thank you for the friendship she gave and for the strength and peace she brought. We thank you for the love she offered and received while she was with us on earth. We pray that nothing good in her life will be lost, but will be of benefit to the world, that all that was important to her will be respected by those who follow, and that everything in which she was great will continue to mean much to us now that she is dead. We ask you that she may go on living in her children and grandchildren, her family and her friends, in their hearts and minds, in their courage and their consciences. We ask you that we who are close to her may now, because of her death, be even closer to each other, and that we may, in peace and friendship here on earth, always be deeply conscious of your promise to be faithful to us in death. May God grant us courage and confidence to meet the days to come, giving thanks, loving God, for your presence in our lives. Amen. And a prayer of commendation. Into your hands, O merciful Savior, we commend your servant Hazel. Acknowledge, we pray, a sheep of your own fold, a lamb of your own flock, a sinner of your own redeeming. Receive her into the arms of your mercy, into the blessed rest of everlasting peace, and into the glorious company of the saints in light. Rest eternal grant to her, O Lord, and let light perpetual shine upon her. May her soul and the souls of all that departed through the mercy of God rest in peace. Amen.
When it was decided that a reading or a few readings would be appropriate for this service, I went to visit Hazel because you understand Hazel made all the arrangements for here today. Do not be confused. I went to Hazel to get her input on who might be the right person to speak and to do such a reading. See, I came with a few ideas. She didn't know I was coming. And I suggested a person who I felt might be appropriate. And her response was, no. I suggested a second person who was a good friend and a very faithful supporter of hers. And her response was, no. I then asked her if she wanted to think a little bit about who that should be, and I'd come back, and she looked at me like I had two heads and said, Dave Toyson, World Vision. Like, are you crazy? Can you not figure that out? World Vision is a wonderful organization. Dave Tyson has been and still is one of the most prominent members of the congregation of Hazel's Trinity Anglican Church. Dave Tyson is the former CEO of World Vision. World Vision is recognized in countless developing nations for their international efforts to improve the lives of many, many people. Apart from that, he has for many years been a close friend of Hazel's and she has obviously selected him to do this reading. Mr. Tyson.
Hazel McCallion was a Christian all her life. It was her anchor in a busy and demanding profession. The gospel reading is a comfort at the end of the earthly life. They're the words of Jesus. At the same time, Hazel developed strong relationships with other faith communities as well. She respected them and she worked very well with them. The reading that I'm sharing today is from the Gospel of John, and it's Jesus speaking comfort to his followers. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. The word of the Lord. Amen.
As special guests here today, we have the absolute pleasure of having the Sheridan College choral singers. They are very talented. Hazel, as most of you know, was their first and has been their only chancellor, and she was their greatest cheerleader, no question. They reached out to us, Sheridan did, and said, we would like to be a part of this service, and we would like to send our choral singers to do some hymns for you. They're an amazing group of young people, and we're thrilled that they could be part, and Hazel was thrilled that they were coming. Ladies and gentlemen, the Sheridan College singers will do the hymn Amazing Grace.
We've no less
The Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, was installed in September 2014. She is the ideal representative of His Majesty the King in Ontario and always carries herself with dignity, good grace, and is an absolutely fine example of what can be the best of Canadians. I'm aware that when Hazel was not well, the Lieutenant Governor took the time to reach out to her in a kind and caring manner, and this meant a great deal to Hazel. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario.
Good morning. It is a privilege to be here today to pay tribute to Hazel McCallion on behalf of the people of Ontario and to celebrate her remarkable life. Une vie remarquable. The presence of elected officials of all orders of government, prime ministers, premier, mayors, joining citizens from neighborhoods far and wide gives evidence of the gratitude that we feel for someone who has touched so many lives. Hazel McCallion's life was a life of purpose, and she was ever present with us with endless generosity of time, energy, and spirit. We all thought we knew her, and no doubt expected her to be with us forever. She was consistently described in superlatives by the media, a force of nature. At the time of Hazel's 101st birthday, she was quoted as saying, "If you build a solid foundation, no one can ruin it." From her childhood, growing up the youngest of 5 in small-town Quebec during the Great Depression, to her historical handling of the Mississauga train derailment less than 1 year into her first term as mayor of Mississauga, to her astonishing success as she shepherded a fledgling Toronto suburb into what has become Canada's 6th largest city. We could spend an entire afternoon retelling stories of Hazel's life, accomplishments, and her humor, of how her own sound foundation actually came to be. Indeed, she was a trailblazer, an innovator, a fighter, a pragmatist, just getting things done. But Hazel left us with something else too, and that is a profound understanding of the impact that one single person can have by virtue of the impact she had, the impact on women, on young people, on citizens and their institutions. Others will tell you many of those stories. But from my unique observation post, I want to reflect on a lifetime of service, an abiding preoccupation with the public interest, and her significant contribution to our precious democracy. It was in the 1970s when she joined an exclusive club, becoming one of the first female mayors in Canada, clearing the way for many more who would follow her in the years to come. And some indeed did call her a pathfinder par excellence. Yes, she was convinced of the imperative of women's representation, but she was even more fundamentally convinced of the need for our governments to be inclusive, to genuinely reflect who we are as we create the rules by which we choose to live together harmoniously in times of both challenge and change. Hazel was a politician who focused not on our differences, but rather on the commonalities that would bind us together, because to her, everyone mattered, regardless of their station in life. She believed strongly in local government as the voice of people, and in the power of municipal governments and their ability to make a dramatic difference in the lives of their constituents. She encouraged citizens to be more than mere observers, but to be active participants. To her, that meant informing and educating the public on the issues so that they were sufficiently armed with the knowledge necessary to actually challenge politicians to be held to account and to do more for their communities. She also understood implicitly that good governance must be bi-directional, that at its core it required from those elected the readiness to listen, to be advised, to encourage, and to inspire. And then, with loyalty, she gave us honesty. You were never in doubt as to where the mayor stood on any issue. Tough but fair, uncompromising but kind. Hazel was driven in all that she did by a fierce desire to make things better for the people around her. Reminiscing about Hazel recently, I was reminded of the words of Robert Baden-Powell, who once said, "Try and leave this world a little better when you found it. And when your turn comes to die, you can die happy in feeling that at any rate, you have not wasted your time, but have done your best." Without question, the thousands of people from across the province and country who have responded to her passing will agree that she did just that, her very best. Hazel was a proud Canadian. Today, then, let us consider not only her many achievements, but also her aspirations. She knew that as a country we were not perfect, but that we are capable of continuous improvement. And she envisioned for us, for this province, and for this country, a bold and ambitious country that makes the most of its physical and human resources in the interest of an even better future. A country that is sustainable and resilient, and a caring and nurturing country that embraces all, that creates space for everyone's contribution. Our sincere condolences to the McCallion family. May you sense and celebrate her significance in so many lives. She will be long and fondly remembered. Hazel, may you rest in peace, knowing that we commit to working together to carrying on your legacy as we seek a bright future.
Shortly after Premier Ford was elected to commence his first term as Premier of Ontario, he reached out to Hazel McCallion to serve as a special advisor on municipal affairs. Hazel accepted that role. She said that she would be pleased to be an advisor, although she really wasn't interested in any compensation. because she felt it would be easier to criticize the government if she hadn't been paid. Typical Hazel. As time went on, she became a very loyal fan of Premier Ford for a multitude of reasons and provided him with sage advice over his tenure. Premier Ford, your involvement here today is a strong statement of your respect for the contributions Hazel has made for decades, not only in Mississauga or the Region of Peel, but right across this province of Ontario. Mr. Premier, as you visited with Hazel in your last days, your friendship and concern for the comfort and emotional support for the entire McCallion family was remarkable. And I know they greatly appreciated your kindness at this very difficult time. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Premier Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario.
Thank you so much, Jim. Your Honor, Bishop, Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, Premier, Senators, and Mayors, and everyone else that's here today, thank you. Thank you for coming. Hazel McCallion was a giant. Not in literal sense, of course. She was a woman who was in command of every discussion she had, every debate she waged, every room she entered. There isn't a single person who met Hazel who didn't leave in awe of her force of personality. Throughout her life, whether on the ice, in a boardroom, or on the floor of the council chamber, everyone knew Hazel was a force to be reckoned with. And if you didn't, you quickly found out. Hazel never hesitated to say what was on her mind, not for a second. And she was always right. That's because she never lost sight of why she entered public life: to serve the people. No politician in the country understood the grassroots better than Hazel did. From her regular stops at the local Tim's to her weekly breakfasts at Orchards, she kept close to the pulse of the people. Her commitment to community and community building was second to none. She was always fighting for the underdog, the people who never had a champion. Hazel believed in them. She believed in their potential. That's because Hazel herself heard her fair share of no's. She grew up in a time that told her she was less than a man, that she didn't belong in the rooms where decisions were made. She grew up in a time that told her she should temper her ambition and drive to serve. Hazel refused to accept that. She never fit the mold, and she proved the naysayers wrong. That's what made Hazel such a trailblazer. She was an icon, a legend. She was Hurricane Hazel. It's only fitting that we gather today to pay our respects on what would have been her 102nd birthday. Hazel, happy birthday. Today is a day long celebrated here in Mississauga and across Ontario. Today is a day to celebrate and remember Hazel. Her force of will was clear in everything she did, but never more obvious than her 36 years as mayor of Mississauga, the longest serving mayor in Mississauga's history. It's a record that won't soon be beat. That's because Hazel loved her community. She dedicated her long life to building Mississauga, to serving it, and making it the city it is today. She led the transformation of Mississauga into one of Canada's largest, most vibrant cities, a city brimming with potential. Her mark on her community can be found in many places and organizations that bear her name: schools and centers for healing and care, Canada Day Parade, a softball league, and a World Cup hockey trophy, a cultural center, this very place we honor her today. And my personal favorite is the Hazel McCallion line. Hazel touched the hearts of millions of people, not only in Mississauga, but across Canada, across the world. And Hazel was so proud to have passed on her legacy to Mayor Crombie, who shares her same sense of civic duty and passion for the city they both love. I count myself incredibly lucky to have called Hazel my friend over these past many years. She was a gift. More than a friend, she was a mentor. As I entered in the world of politics, I was fortunate to learn from her. I'll always cherish our Saturday morning conversations over breakfast, during which she shared with me her wisdom and guidance. Wisdom and guidance that I'll never forget or take for granted. Wisdom and guidance that kept the people at the center of her purpose. And wisdom and guidance that she selflessly offered until the very end. Peter, Linda, and Paul, thank you for sharing your mother with Ontario and Canada for so many years. Public service is a family's calling. You made countless sacrifices in support of your mother, and she was so incredibly proud of you. The week before she passed, I paid Hazel a visit. At one point during our conversation, her face lit up. She turned and pulled out one of her signature miniature race cars, one that I know a few of us here have received. In it was an equally miniature Hazel, her plastic head bobbing alongside the excitement. She grabbed a marker and wrote on the bottom, "To my favorite premier, love Hazel." That little red race car embodies the best of Hazel. Always on the move, never slowing down, not even in her later years. Excited about the promise of what came next, always leading with love. Mississauga is a better city, Ontario is a better province, and Canada is a better country because of the amazing life of Hazel McCallion. Until the very end, she never lost what made Hazel great: her signature wit, her generosity. She was relentless, funny, kind, and giving. In those final moments, I did what any friend would. I took her hand and offered her as much comfort as I could. I told her, "I love you, Hazel." Those words will stay with me until my last moment. I love you, Hazel, forever. Rest easy, my friend. And may God bless your soul, and may God bless the greatest mayor this country has ever seen. Thank you.
Premier Ford, that was a very special speech. And what you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, that speech was given without a single note. And the reason it was done without a single note is I was supposed to take the Premier's notes and put them up on the podium. And I apologize to you, sir, for not doing that, but it was one of the finest addresses I've ever heard you give. Hazel told me many times that she really got to know Prime Minister Trudeau, the person, instead of the Prime Minister, when they both ended up by chance at a hotel in Europe. It was a small hotel, and throughout their stay, he and Hazel talked politics, because there was very little else to do in the evening, and they shared advice on how to solve the problems of the world. I suspect, knowing my friend Hazel, he did a lot of listening. Oh, to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Hazel left that chance meeting, and a few days with a lifelong respect for Justin Trudeau, the man. And a relationship was formed that has endured to this very day. Prime Minister, your attendance today speaks volumes to the nearly 800,000 residents of Mississauga and speaks to your respect for our most famous citizen. It is truly a significant honor to have you with us here today to share your thoughts. While we honor this special lady, I know you mourn with us over our tremendous loss. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honourable Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I brought my own notes. Present and former leaders, dignitaries, people of Mississauga, and of course, Hazel's family and loved ones. It is an honor to be here with you to pay my respects to our great friend, Hazel McCallion. I must admit, though, it feels a little strange to be here today. Hazel was so unstoppable, I think we all felt she was going to live forever. Last time I spoke with her was just a couple of weeks ago. We talked about how the North American Leaders Summit went. She told me I had to keep pushing hard for Canadian jobs and workers during President Biden's upcoming visit to Canada, and of course I said I would. It was impressive that she was still working hard herself and always putting people first. Despite her illness, she was, as ever, fierce, passionate, and engaged. Les conseils et la sagesse de Hazel vont me manquer, tout comme son amitié. Now, as many of you heard, last year I went bungee jumping. My kids, among others, questioned that maybe I was getting a little too old for that kind of nonsense at 50. So I told them the story of how 15 years ago on that trip to Italy with Sophie, that Jim mentioned, I ran into Hazel and joined her on one of the longest, highest, and fastest zip lines in the world. Il Volo dell'Angelo, a zip line between two mountain peaks. Then in her late 80s, Hazel was not just the oldest elected official to ever do the zip line, she was one of the oldest people, period, to do it. But that's just who Hazel was. She wouldn't let anything stop her, ever. Aujourd'hui, Hazel aurait eu 102 ans.
Would have turned 102. As the entire world celebrates Valentine's Day, here in Ontario, February 14 is also the official day of Hazel McCallion.
In a way, she will live forever, not just because she has a day to her name, but because of her legacy. Because she will always be remembered as someone who worked hard and delivered every day for people. She was a business person, an athlete, and of course, one of Canada's longest-serving mayors. Hazel a été chancelière du Collège Sheridan et
Hazel was chancellor of the Sheridan College and special advisor to Mississauga and U of T. It was important to her that our young people receive the best possible education. She also was president of Healthy Cities Colloquium with the WHO and put an end to discrimination against the elderly.
Paul, Linda, and Peter will miss her as a mother. Erica will miss her as a grandmother. And we'll all miss her as an inspiration. She was an inspiration for generations of women and girls. During her campaign in 1978, she was told a woman couldn't run Mississauga. Well, she went on to run it, and run it well, for 36 years. Elle a inspiré des générations de leaders qui appréciaient sa force,
who appreciated her strength and her frankness.
To point out that when she first became mayor, there were cows and horses grazing where Mississauga's core is today. During her term, Mississauga grew to become the 6th largest municipality in the country. She was a true nation builder in a nation of builders. That's one of the reasons I know that Canada can overcome any challenge, how we roll up our sleeves to build a better future. And Hazel exemplified that, and exemplified what Canadians know, that with hope and hard work, there's nothing we can't achieve. Born over a century ago, she lived through many difficult moments in our history, but no matter the challenges, her approach never changed. People should always come first. She was there to positively empower people, while of course reminding them to do their homework. She often publicly said that she was never interested in running provincially or federally. She said she wouldn't have been any good at following the party line. I'm sure my father and I weren't the only prime ministers to wonder how great but challenging she might have been as a minister, before realizing it was most likely a bit of a moot point. We probably would have ended up as ministers serving in her cabinet. No matter what, she always held true to her belief of putting people at the center of everything we do. And this should always be the priority for every elected official, for every order of government now and into the future. For all of us, let that be the enduring lesson and legacy of the great Hazel McCallion. We'll miss you, my dear friend.
Prime Minister Trudeau, I would only like to add one thing to what you said, and that is, I had the joy one time of being in that very village and going to that very peak where the zip line goes from one mountain top to another with a deep valley in between that when you look down, you would think you were looking at toy trains. It is incredibly high. It was so difficult to understand that Hazel McCallion had done that zip line not just over, but over and back, that I picked up my phone and I called her from there and woke her up. And I asked her, is it true that you went across this zip line? And she said, of course. Of course was not the answer I was looking for. It was an incredible experience. People can't conceive of how deep that valley was. It was thousands of feet. When Hazel decided to retire after 12 elections, Bonnie Crombie decided to run for mayor. It could have been described as the most difficult election anybody could face, following Hazel McCallion. Who would want to follow in the footsteps of Hazel McCallion? All of us here who live in Mississauga heard many, many times that people would say, whoever follows Hazel will be a one-term wonder. Well, I can tell you one thing. Bonnie Crombie, Mayor Crombie, is just starting her third term, and she is anything but a one-term wonder. With a sense of good grace, a strong sense of humor, and an outstanding understanding of the foundations laid by Hazel McCallion, Mayor Crombie frequently introduced Hazel at community events by saying that Mississauga had a mayor and a spare. That was quite true. She rarely went to a function that Hazel wasn't there, getting as large an applause as anyone could. Mississauga is blessed to have strong municipal government based on the foundations laid by Hazel in many ways. Hazel's legacy continues to this day at City Hall, as I know the mayor and the incredible City Council continue to do their homework.
Bonjour, Ane, Bojo, Dzień dobry. Welcome to Mississauga. Thank you to all of you who have gathered here with us today. On behalf of the City of Mississauga and the people who continue to call this city their home, I would like to offer my deepest condolences to Peter, to Linda, to Paul, to Erica, Deborah, Karen and Mark, and the entire McCallion family who are grieving the loss of their mother, their grandmother, and great aunt. Mississauga mourns with you. Hazel touched the lives of so many in Mississauga and beyond. I'd also like to acknowledge the Prime Minister Trudeau, Premier Ford, Lieutenant Governor, and former Prime Minister Chrétien, and all the dignitaries who have joined us today including our council members and mayors from across the province who are in attendance. Thank you all for being here. I know how much she meant to all of you. And to Premier Ford, a special thank you to you for making this state funeral possible. I know how close the two of you had become. It's only fitting as we gather here today in the Paramount Centre, one of the many reminders of the importance she placed on women in sports. Being mayor maybe was her calling, but hockey was her passion. And I'm so glad we can honor her memory in a place that she built where she was known to steal away for a few private skates. I know she would have loved the hockey theme and having the women's gold medal players here to pay their respects. She never missed an opportunity to cheer Canadian women on in sports. And I vividly remember that time when Hazel and Fran Ryder and we all found each other in Vancouver for the 2010 Olympics, and we watched our women's hockey team bring home the gold medal. And what an exciting game it was. Haley Wickenheiser's swan song and her third gold medal. The women made us so proud. Oh, by the way, the men got gold that year too. In a different era, who knows? Maybe she would have laced up for Team Canada too. Hazel was a woman known by many names. Mom, Nana, Madam Mayor, Her Worship, the Hurricane, a reflection of the many hats she wore at the same time, juggling them all while always being present and full of energy and passion. She was our matriarch, the architect of our city. We join today to mark the end of an era. She built our city in her vision and through her stewardship. It was a city that we chose because of Hazel to live in, to work in, to play in, to pray in, to invest in, and to raise our children in. And it is the finest city in Canada. It is fair to say that we all thought, like the Queen, Hazel would live forever. And in a way, she will. She will always live forever in our hearts. When we look around Mississauga, we are reminded of her legacy in the buildings, the parks, and the open spaces, and the people she welcomed from around the world. She left an indelible mark. Hazel was the Mrs. in Mississauga, and the city will not be the same without her. I too visited her in her final days and can attest to how strong and vigorous, and may I say, feisty she was and continued to be. There was not much that could slow her down. We all know that she was truly a force of nature. She demonstrated that fearless leadership and tenacity she became so well known for shortly after winning her first election as mayor, when she saw and oversaw the 1979 train derailment, which at the time was the largest evacuation in North American history. At a time of great uncertainty and panic, Hazel remained strong, steady, and decisive, continuing to deliver regular updates, despite spraining her ankle while helping residents evacuate. That was just the first part of a long, illustrious career at City Hall, but it set the tone. No matter what the circumstances, Hazel would always show up for the people of Mississauga. She spent 36 years serving as mayor. And during that time, made Mississauga the envy of the world. As a trailblazing woman in politics and a no-nonsense city builder, she set the framework for our future and transformed Mississauga from farmland and fruit trees to the growing urban city that we are today, a powerhouse in the province of Ontario. Her influence reached and extended well beyond our borders, where she helped shape Ontario's municipal sector, inspiring countless and former mayors, and leading the charge to establish the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, which today, to this very day, remains a strong and powerful voice at Queen's Park and on Parliament Hill. And let's not forget that she was the runner-up as the World Mayor in 2005. Her reach certainly did extend beyond our borders. Hazel earned a seat at the decision-making table wherever she went. And it's fair to say that she not only opened the door for women in politics and in business, but she smashed right through it. And she helped open it and helped us realize our full potential. During her tenure as mayor, Mississauga led the way with women in leadership positions long before it was fashionable. She always said, if you do the work, you will succeed, and created a meritocracy where everyone had an equal opportunity to succeed, and more women secured seats on council and in positions of leadership at our city than ever before. We welcomed our first female city manager and others, including a female chief of police, our chief of Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services, the CEO of Trillium Health Partners, 2 of them in fact, CEO of the United Way, and so many more. As she used to always say, think like a man, act like a lady, and work like a dog. And she took that advice to heart. Of course, she was in a class of her own. We were incredibly progressive when it came to female representation at the highest levels of leadership long before others, and that is largely because of the example that Hazel set. And what an example. Hazel and I initially bonded of our love for arts and culture, and we worked together to strengthen the art scene in Mississauga through the Blue Ribbon Panel for the Arts in the mid-2000s. And we were looking for ways to help fund the arts and make that funding more sustainable. In fact, as you heard, she was the one who encouraged me to run for City Council in 2011. When Prime Minister, I took the early retirement package from federal politics. And just a few years later, she was the one who encouraged me to put my name forward for mayor. Now, don't get me wrong. She encouraged everyone to run for office, but especially women. One day, I got a call that Hazel wanted to see me. Here I am, a lowly councillor down the hall, and honestly, I thought I was in trouble. Getting called into Hazel's office was like getting called into the principal's office. that long walk down the hallway with your knees shaking the entire time because you're trying to figure out what you did wrong this time? But much to my surprise, she confided in me that she was thinking of retiring. Retiring, I said. God bless you. You deserve some retirement. You're 92 years old. You've had 12 terms as mayor. You've given so much of yourself and your life to our city. And then she looked at me and she said, I think you should consider putting your name in the race. Whew. I knew right then and there I had to run for mayor. That while achieving her trust required hard work, accepting it required responsibility. Hazel single-handedly changed my destiny that day, while also helping us write the next chapter of our city's history. Hazel was Mississauga through and through, and it was her efforts that built us into the city that we are today. The last time we spoke, she told me how proud she was of my council and how we handled the pandemic and our recovery from it. And when I asked her what would be next, she looked at me and she said, I'm winking at the Premier, independence. It's time for Mississauga to stand on her own 2 feet, she'd say. A single-tier independent city. She said, it's long overdue. That was my best Hazel. And she was right. Those were her words. It was clear even long after her time in politics, she never stopped lending her voice, and she never stopped moving. She campaigned for the causes that she cared about in the community, including founding Hazel's Hope, supporting Trillium Health Partners, our hospital network, the Hazel McCallion Foundation, Sheridan College, the GTAA, and the countless community organizations that do such great work in our city. I'll miss the time we spent together on weekends and in the evenings, whether it was all the ribbon cuttings or having breakfast at Bobby's or at the Orchard, raising funds for charity together, walking in parades, or speaking side by side at festivals such as her beloved Carasaga, which she founded, of course, Canada's largest multicultural festival. It was remarkable that for the last 9 years, she still made it a priority to attend as many community events as she possibly could. And I will cherish those moments and hold them near and dear to my heart forever. Everything she did was for the betterment of our city, to ensure that even long after her time, that Mississauga would continue to thrive. We can all take solace now in the fact that she is finally at peace and with her beloved husband, Sam. Hazel is forever part of our history, and we are forever part of hers. Happy 102nd birthday, my dear friend. Hazel, may you finally have some time to rest. It's been a job well done, and we thank you. And we all love you, and we'll all miss you, and you will live forever in our hearts. Thank you.
When Hazel and I talked about this day that none of us thought would come or wanted to come, she said, you know, Jim, you need to understand that if you don't inject something with a little bit of humor now and again, they'll all go to sleep. And I said to her, I didn't think, Hazel, it was the kind of day when we should try to be a comedian. And she said, just once in a while. So I'm going to tell you a quick little anecdote. As most of you know, there were 25 Hazel McCallion galas. But my favorite story, other than the night we opened the Living Arts Centre and Premier Harris was kind enough to take all of my notes off the podium when he took his. I've never thanked you properly for that. Regis Philbin was going to be the entertainer, and his office reached out to me as I was the MC and I was chairing it that year, and he said, his office said he'd like to speak to you about Mississauga, and then could you arrange that he could speak with Madam Mayor? So on a Wednesday, I got him on the phone, his office on the phone, and he came on and he asked me a lot of questions about Mississauga, which I was quite impressed because he wanted to know what Mississauga was. I said it's about the 6th largest city in Canada. He said, no, that's Winnipeg. And I said, let's get Hazel on the phone before I get too many more questions wrong. So we got her on the phone and he said, hello, Hazel, it's Regis Philbin here. Do you watch my show? And she said, no. There was a little bit of a pause and he said, well, Hazel, have you ever seen my show? No. Never. You think I'm making this up, and I'm not. There was dead silence. It was like somebody had shot him in the middle of the conversation. I finally broke the silence by saying, it's okay, I had to explain to her who Bill Cosby was. And he said, oh, I feel so much better now. But then he had her on his show 3 times after the gala. That's the kind of person she was with people. For our second reading today, I'd like to call on Chief Emmanuel Mabulu. The Chief came to Canada from Nigeria to get his university education here. And after 2 outstanding degrees obtained here, he decided Canada would be his permanent home. He's built a highly successful business, and as a citizen and a member of our community here, he has made philanthropy and giving back his way of life. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Mabulu.
Hazel was a very dear friend. We connected spiritually. I'm going to miss her. The second reading is taken from the Old Testament, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the right path for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. The word of God. Amen.
Chief Mabulo, you are a role model for what new Canadians can and do add to the value of this country. I just wanted you to know that the Chief was personally chosen by Hazel because she was so proud of the contributions he's made to this country since he made it his home. In 2014, when Hazel decided it was time to retire, the Hazel McCallion Foundation for Arts, Culture, and Heritage hosted a farewell fundraising evening at the International Center, attended by some 2,000 citizens. Unbeknownst to Hazel, we planned to have a special guest arrive just as dinner was to commence. We left a seat vacant at the table, and she had no idea who it would be. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that the surprise arrival of former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien was the absolute highlight of that farewell evening, not only for Hazel, but for all the attendees there to bid her farewell. Mr. Chrétien, you were the first person she mentioned to me that she wanted to invite here today, the absolute first name that ever came to her. She strongly believed you were a superb leader of Canada, a man of outstanding character, integrity, and the common touch. The common touch that she valued so much in life. It was a common touch that she was proud to share with you. She always thought of you as a man of the people, which is how she thought of herself as a lady of the people, always creating in her mind a very close bond with all the citizens. You were her role model. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien, former Prime Minister of Canada.
La famille de Madame McCallion, Prime Minister, Premier, Reverend Lieutenant Governor, et mes chers amis. And good morning, Mississauga. I have not given a speech in quite a long time, so when I was invited and told I will be addressing a gathering of thousands of people, I thought to myself, great, I will have 30 minutes and have a lot to share. Then I heard Hazel voice in my head, Jean, keep it clear and keep it short. Just like me. Quand j'étais sur l'estrade avec Hazel, quand nous étions les personnalités de l'occasion, on se disait l'un à l'autre, il n'y a pas grand personne ici à Mississauga qui savent que nous venions tous les deux du Québec rural. Elle venait de la Gaspésie et moi de la Mauricie. C'est ça le Canada. For the few of you who did not understand me, I'll repeat in English. When I was in a stage like that with Hazel, with a lot of people, we will tell to each other, there are not many people down there that knows that we're both from rural Quebec. She was from Gaspésie, And I was from La Mauricie. And what a good example of what is Canada. That we have the opportunity here in this land, whoever we are, whatever is the color, the language, the religion, we can all move up in society. And Hazel McCallion was one of a kind. In all my travels and meetings with leaders around the globe, I have never met any politician like Hazel. She was always to the point, very clear, very determined, very hardworking, no nonsense, and successful. And I think that, you know, she had a big heart. And there is no coincidence at all that she was born on February the 14th. She made a difference for this city, taking 4 small cities and making a very vibrant city, very independent and extremely successful. In my course of my career, I never thought that I will retire before. In fact, once at a meeting, I was with Lloyd Robertson of CTV, myself, and Hazel, and we kind of agreed that we should leave together. So when I quit at 70, she called me to give me hell. What happened to you? As Hazel, compared to you, I'm a chicken. So I'm gone, because I cannot be as tough as you are. You know, it's very rare in a country that we have a personality like Hazel McCallion. 36 years in politics. Oh, I beat her as a mayor. I was a little bit more than that as member of parliament. But she was always an example. She was unique. It was energy all the time when she was there. And I think she will be missed. And I'm sure that when she arrived up there, St. Peter said to her, "Well done, Hazel." Et pour moi, je vais vous dire que she was the best. Vive Hazel McCallion.
For the final reading today, I would like to call on, this isn't a message to the Prime Minister, but I'd like to call on the only senator from Mississauga, Senator Victor Rowe, who most of you know he's been a community man for many, many years and an outstanding individual. He came to Canada from Singapore. And once he made Canada his home, he has worked tirelessly to build a strong and vibrant business in a number of sectors, He's the only senator from Mississauga, and we are honored that he accepted Hazel's request to do a reading today, along with his own personal comments. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Victor Rowe.
Good morning. Mayor Hazel McCallion is a true champion and believer of multiculturalism and diversity in our great country. Mayor Hazel, compassion and giving voice to those less fortunate are part of what makes for a terrific public servant. I will always try to visit as many schools as possible, especially schools with high population of new Canadians. And you know what? So often these kids can teach the mayor a thing or two. With stories they tell me and poems they write. I was so moved by a book and poems and life stories by grade 5 students for my visit to St. Veronica Elementary School. One story struck me. It was from a boy that born in the Philippines. He thanked me for Mississauga, a safe home that keeps him dry at night, unlike the home of said matter he once lived in. And he thanked me for the clean water to drink in Mississauga. He thanked me. I want to thank him because with an attitude like that, I'm sure he will grow up into a fine young man and be an asset to our great country. My friendship with Hazel spanned over 30 years. Amongst the countless cherished memories I share with her, I often reminisce our trips to Asia, where I witnessed her curiosity, respect, and appreciation for different cultures. Hazel's admiration for cultural diversity and commitment to community service facilitated the transformation of the great city of Mississauga into one of the most culturally diverse communities in the country. Hazel, on behalf of all Asian Canadians in Mississauga, we thank you for all you have done for our community. I will always treasure your guidance and our friendship. Rest in peace, 安息，老人一路走好。My friend, you will always be in my heart. Happy Valentine, happy birthday, Hazel. Thank you.
Hazel's very dear friend, Fran Ryder, is a lady that not maybe a lot of you know, but she is a person that every one of you should get to know. She's the president and CEO of the Ontario Women's Hockey Association. She's also Hazel's closest and best friend. During Hazel's recent health decline, Fran packed up her computer from her office, hooked it up in a spare bedroom in Hazel's home, and spent every day working from the house, along with Hazel's son, Peter, her friends Amy and Kay, her niece, Debbie, grandniece, coordinating the many visitors who wanted to come and spend time with Hazel. The list was endless. Word does spread fast. Fran kept the date book and was the true gatekeeper. At the end of the day, she would pack up and head to her home in Innisfil sometime around 8 o'clock in the evening, only to return the next day and do it all over again. That was until the last 10 days when she simply stayed at the house 24 hours a day. It has been said that between Hazel McCallion and Fran Ryder, trailblazers that they are responsible for women's hockey becoming an Olympic sport. I had heard that a number of times from people in the sporting and in the political world. And since I'd been told that, I did my homework, and then I went to speak to Hazel and asked her, and she told me that she did indeed assist Fran in a small way in a push for women's hockey as an Olympic sport, but that Fran Ryder was the real difference maker in getting the sport added to the Olympics. You can see this legacy today with the Canadian women's hockey gold medal finalists as our pallbearers. We would, every one of us in this room and everyone in this city would be better people if each of us had a friend who is nice a person as Fran Ryder is. She's one of Canada's real difference makers. She's dedicated, she's hardworking, she's smart, but she's very caring. On top of which she is Canada's most influential women's hockey executive, and she is Hazel's personal choice to speak of a lasting friendship. Fran.
Happy birthday, Hazel. Dignitaries, McCallion family, friends of Hazel, which is everyone here. Hazel was a true superstar. She was a leader who developed her knowledge and skills. She did her homework, as you've heard, and that meant listening and caring. And she came in with a solid game plan. She was a leader who recognized the importance of great teammates, who believed in her and she believed in them. She always had her eye on the win, but if she did not win, she regrouped, and she came back even stronger. Hazel made her teammates better. She made her opponents, which were only opponents to a certain degree, they were true friends as well. She made them better, and therefore she made the world better. It was people that she cared about. That's what drove her. Every person was important to her. And she'd go to 15 activities every day, and some individual would come up to her as they saw her at night, "Can you help me?" And Hazel said, "I want to help you." She had a true vision for a better world, and she certainly has made Mississauga, Canada, and the world, and Ontario better places today. Hazel truly loved her family, and she had great pride in providing support and encouragement to Peter, Linda, Paul, Erica, and the extended family here today. She'd be so pleased you were here today. Her niece Debbie fondly remembers that in times of need, Hazel would always be there. If you needed her, she was there. And that was true in her friendship as well. She often spoke of her younger days growing up in Port Daniel, a fishing village on the Gaspé coast. She loved the ocean, she loved nature, and she loved dogs. Hazel had a very strong connection to her family, and she had a very strong connection to her many, many friends. I first met Hazel through women's hockey. We quickly became very good friends and colleagues, sharing a positive vision for the future, stronger opportunities for women, a desire for all people to succeed, and to get women's hockey into the Olympics. This impossible dream became a reality in 1998. Now Canadian fans and fans in 40 other countries can cheer for their women's teams, and their players become leaders in sport. And equally as important, these players become leaders in their countries. One of Hazel's happiest moments was in this very building. She loved Mississauga, she loved this building, and of course she loved people. In 2000, the IHF Women's World Hockey Championship was in this building. The event was going amazingly. We have some players here that were stars in that event and other events. She would love that you were here. And everything was going really well. The games were going well, the media was covering it, the women's game was gaining exposure, people were thrilled with the talent on and off the ice. Until Canada and US did play in the final game, but Canada was down 2-0 going into the third period. And thanks to Jana Hefford, we tied that up and won in overtime. Canada won the gold medal in overtime. Many dignitaries were in attendance, and as everyone knows, there's very tightly scripted protocols. Well, when Canada scored that goal, Hazel didn't give a darn about protocols. She bolted from that room, and the first security guard looked at her to tackle her and decided better than that, so he let her go, which was a very smart decision. And Hazel came charging down the stairs and came as close as she could to the players because she truly loved the players. She didn't want to be a spectator, she wanted to be part of the game. And she truly was. So she's very, very fitting. Hazel had a hat trick. Her city, her team, her building. Thanks so much for the players for making that happen. Hazel was a superstar in so many sectors of life. As a young woman, and certainly we had some very precious times together in the last 7 weeks. And she was so proud to relay that it was 2 men, when she was a teenager, that believed in her and gave her a start. They saw her true abilities, they saw her potential, and they put their trust and confidence in Hazel and empowered her to a leadership role. They saw that by supporting her and her leading with her ideas and her actions, that there would be a stronger outcome. And boy, were they right. So Hazel was so proud of that, and she's so proud of people that give other people a start and give them encouragement to succeed. And certainly she did that with so many, many people in her life. She was very proud, and she was very humbled that she was a part in the success of others. Hazel lived each day to the fullest. She rose before 6 a.m. If you got up at 7 a.m., she wondered, what were you doing? She caught up with the news. She read inspirational stories. She did her exercises, and she set off for a full day. If you spoke to Hazel at the end of the day, she would respond. She would always respond, I had a great day, because she was with people, and she was living a life she loved. She would happily climb into bed at night, and if you did not wish her well quickly before her head hit the pillow, you'd have to wait till the next day. She slept as hard as she worked. Next morning, she was up and ready for another great day, up by sunrise and ready to have another wonderful day. Everybody is gifted, no matter what we do in this world, with 24 hours a day. And we have a choice to make in that day of how we live that day. And boy, did Hazel live those days to the fullest. Hazel did retire from her role as mayor of Mississauga, which she truly loved. But she never retired from her job, which was working with people, her job and her love of working with people. We gave her an office in our building in Mississauga when she retired, so she had something to go to. So she wasn't just going from something, and she went to so many, many things. And she had so much more to do at 101. She had an incredible vision for the future, and as some of the wonderful speakers have said, you know, Hazel may have been quiet before they came, but the adrenaline got flowing, and she was telling them how to fix Mississauga, how to fix Ontario, how to fix Canada. They were already wonderfully strong, but Hazel still had vision to do more and to do more, and she wanted to do more. I'm so very, very thankful that we shared our very special friendship. You know, I trusted her totally, and I hope I brought her comfort, especially as she went through struggles that were so uncommon to her. She was truly committed to giving to people, and even in those last few weeks, as much as we were trying to comfort her, she was trying to comfort us. She still had that desire to help people and to make people feel good. Her greatest joy was the warm words of appreciation from so many people. It brought her great happiness when young people recognized her and approached her for a picture of a few words. She recognized these youth as the future of this country and this world, and the role they had to play in the future. She also recognized 90-year-olds as young people, but that was another side of her. Anyway, it's now up to us to proudly carry on Hazel's legacy. She gave us so much, she left so much, and she would want us to carry on as she lived. She would want us to start each day with a positive vision of a great 24 hours. She would want us to be kind to each other, and she would want us to be kind to ourselves. Hazel's strength was so very, very powerful, and it remains with her family and with everyone who had the joy of knowing her, who is in this building today to pay tribute to her, who's watching on the screen, or who happens to read about her legacy. She touches each and all of us, and we can give her a gift today because she remains in our hearts. And if we need some strength, someday we're feeling a little down, put the hand to the chest and you'll feel her warmth, you'll feel her love, because she is there. Because she truly, her legacy was making each day better for the people that carried on in lives when she was no longer physically with us. So please go to bed tonight and say, I had a wonderful day. I got the honor of celebrating a person who will never be duplicated in this world. And remember that as you go forward. Please be kind to each other. And thank you, Hazel. We love you, Hazel.
Hazel asked me to tell you a short story because she had asked me to tell this at dinners and functions for a long time, in small groups, never in a large group. And she thought you'd maybe get a smile from this. When she was, I guess, in her mid-80s, she agreed to be the hostess of a charity fundraising cruise in the Caribbean. And she asked my wife and I, Janice, to join her on that cruise, which we were clearly interested in doing because we have a cottage and it was the middle of August. Anyway, we did. And on the third night out, she said, "Jim, tonight I want you to teach me how to play blackjack." So we sat down at the table and I bought, that wouldn't surprise you, I don't think. I bought 4 $5 chips. I said, put one chip out, and they dealt a hand and she lost. I said, put another chip out. They dealt a hand and she lost. I said, put out a third chip. She said, I don't really like this game so far. She lost. She now had $5 left and she put it, I said, put the $5 out. She said, can I just leave? I said, no, put the $5 out. She put it out and she won. Now she had $10. I said, leave the $10 out. You would have thought I said, cut your arm off. She was not impressed. She did not like this. She left the $10 out. She won. She had $20 now. And I said, now we're getting started. She said, wrong. She picked up my $20 and left the table. She did want me to tell you that. She also asked me if I would speak to you for a moment about her loving family. They're a very close family. And for those of you who don't know them personally, Peter is her oldest son, and he is here with he and his daughter Erica, who is Hazel's only grandchild. Next, there is her daughter Linda, and then we have her youngest son, Paul. And we all know, as does all of Mississauga, that Linda, Peter, and Paul have sacrificed a great deal of their time during their lives for their mother for decades, while she shaped the future of Mississauga and looked after all of us. So let me tell you a little bit about what each of them has done recently to assist their mother in her twilight years. Peter lives just around the corner from Hazel, and he arrived every morning. Every day he came down to the house and prepared a healthy and nourishing breakfast for his mother. And since she gave up driving her driver's license, which we were all grateful for, he drove her to every event that she continued to attend with regularity. Just last December, when she wanted to attend the Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference in Ottawa, Peter said, no problem. And he drove her up to Ottawa, stayed there during the conference with her, and then drove her back home. Her daughter Linda, yes, I agree. Thank you, Peter. Linda has an interesting horse farm in Pushlinch, where she rehabilitates injured racehorses. When Hazel decided it was time for a new puppy in her life to replace her beloved Missy, it was Linda who took the puppy and trained her for a couple of months before introducing Saga to Hazel. By the way, Hazel's first of 3 German Shepherds was aptly called Hurricane, followed by her beloved Missy, named for Mississauga. And not to be outdone, when her third puppy came along, it was named Saga to round out Mississauga. She never stopped marketing the city, did she? In case you're wondering, Saga has now relocated to spend the rest of her natural life with Linda on the farm. Paul and Marie, as Hazel passed the 100-year mark, became increasingly concerned about her living alone. They set up a security system that included cameras positioned throughout the house and a large monitor system in their home to alert them if she had a fall or a health issue while at home alone. The system gave Hazel, Paul, and Marie a comfort level regarding her health and well-being while living alone. In the last few weeks, when Hazel lost her mobility, Paul went out and acquired a number of bird feeding stations that he hung in the backyard just outside the family room where they had large sliding doors, so that Hazel could watch from her bed, which was now in the family room. She could watch the birds in the morning. It brought her great joy to watch the wildlife just outside her door. And there was no greater or no prouder grandmother than Hazel when her granddaughter Erica chose a political career as part of a campaign staff in Toronto in the political offices of one of the national parties. She subsequently worked as a staff member in municipal elections, and her grandmother spoke absolutely warmly of how proud she was of Erica's growing organizational skills as she matured and she chartered her own life course. There is no question, ladies and gentlemen, that Peter, Linda, and Paul, along with Hazel's late husband Sam and Erica, were the people who paid the greatest price for Hazel's 58-year community political involvement. Remember, before Hazel was a politician, before she was a councillor in Mississauga, before she was the mayor, and before she was a councillor and then the mayor, and previous to that in Streetsville, she was the mother of 3 young children. And I would suggest to all of you here today that we all owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to the entire family for the sacrifice that they made for Mississauga. Lest any of you misunderstand me and think that I'm suggesting that she wasn't a mother, a wonderful mother, who made sure she was home every night for dinner. Even if she had an evening meeting, she would come home, have dinner, and go back to the council chambers or go to the community meeting where she told the people to stop complaining and whining and get on with life. Erica is now a young woman building her own life and career, but she has never known a time when her grandmother didn't have a completely full calendar of events and obligations concerning our city. It is absolutely clear that this family gave up a great deal. How proud they are of their mothers' and grandmothers' accomplishments and the respect that she has earned throughout her lifetime. The same can be said for her late husband, Sam, who was himself a dedicated community driver. Many times over the years, he ended up being both mother and father, as he was the glue keeping the family together, while his loving wife split her time between family and Mississauga. Sam was a great, wonderful parent, a loving husband, a local businessman, and a complete support system for whatever challenge Hazel was involved in conquering at the time. He also paid a great price for Hazel's career. So I would like to say to Peter, Erica, Linda, Paul, Marie, and the late Sam McCallion, on behalf of all of the citizens, we truly thank you for your lifelong contributions and sacrifices that your family has made while your mother and grandmother spent her entire life working tirelessly on our behalf in what we call our home. Over the weekend, I had the pleasure of speaking in a telephone conversation with Erica about her grandmother, and we discussed my comments here today and my thoughts on the family sacrifices throughout their entire lives. Erica wanted you to know that it wasn't all about sacrifice. It was also about how proud they all were, and the hundreds and thousands of people that they met, and the places they went, and the things they saw, and the things they did because of her grandmother's lifelong commitment. The pride and joy that they felt and the friends that they made far outweighed in her mind any sacrifice that they made along the way. Those are powerful and strong words from a bright young woman speaking of her grandmother. These stick together. Now, as most of you know, and it isn't coincidental, by the way, Hazel loved music, and most of you know that, but it isn't coincidental that we had, at the opening of the Living Arts Center, Anne Murray, and one other year we had Rita McNeil, her two favorite singers. And some of you might know that her absolute lifelong favorite song was Danny Boy. As a special guest and as part of one of the things in the final chapter of this service, we've invited a young lady named Nicolina here today. She's kind of like Madonna, Cher, and Hazel, one name. Nicolina is a 20-year-old Canadian singer-songwriter from Vaughan, who appeared on season 20 of American Idol in 2022. She became the first Canadian ever to make it to the top 5 in the history of the show. Hazel would be thrilled to know that the person to sing Danny Boy is a young person, because that's where her heart always was. In memory of Hazel, she will now perform a rendition of Hazel's favorite song, Danny Boy. Nicolina.
Sunshine
In closing, I hope you would give me a moment to thank, you can be seated, to thank a few people who have made this most outstanding and unprecedented event a success. And at the very top of that list is the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau. Prime Minister Trudeau, the clear message that you have sent here today by your attendance and by your kind words speaks volumes of how Canadians view our most famous citizen and beloved mayor. For you to take the time out of what is clearly a busy schedule to spend today with us it not only honors Hazel McCallion and her family, but it also confirms that every Mississauga citizen and our opinion of Hazel McCallion is shared at the highest level of this country. And that, Prime Minister Trudeau, is comforting, as we all know and we all appreciate you mourning with us. To the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien, I think you have once again come to Mississauga to recognize your friendship with and the accomplishments of Hazel McCallion. We are all honoured to have you with us today, and we truly thank you for your kind words, your sense of humour, the compliment of your attendance, and the honour that you bring to Hazel by being her friend. To the Lieutenant Governor here today heightens this event to a different level and brings even greater honor to the life and accomplishments of Hazel McCallion, and we truly appreciate you being here. We are also, by the way, appreciative and flattered by your caring that you exhibited in the last month of Hazel's life. Mayor Crombie, your enthusiastic support of what we started some months ago as a City of Mississauga-driven funeral has never wavered, nor has that of your council. Although the mayor and the spare is no longer here, the lessons you learned with Hazel as your mentor will serve you well as you build on her legacy with your own accomplishments. We wish you well. Bishop Andrew, it was important that you spoke today representing the organization that brought Hazel and Sam together at AYPA within the Anglican Church, and where Hazel fine-tuned her moral compass that served her well throughout her life. I'd also like to thank Chief Mabulu, Senator Victor Rowe, and Dave Toyson for their readings, and in particular Dave Toyson for his careful selection of all three readings. The reading, by the way, that Senator Rowe did was from Hazel's autobiographical book. You should pick it up and read it. It's worth every page. Fran Ryder, Peter McCallion, Amy Chan, Kay Unamira looked after Hazel every day during her short period of decline, and they deserve a mountain of appreciation for their commitment every day. Hazel McCallion very much wanted Fran to speak today so that she would all know what a gracious and caring, humble friend Fran has been to her. Speaking at an event like this is not really within Fran's comfort wheelhouse, but she did it for her friend so that you would know how really close they were with a complete mutual support system that they had for each other's careers. Thank you, Fran, for sharing your warm thoughts about a great friend. We would be remiss if we did not thank the Sheridan Choral Singers for bringing their tremendous musical talent to bid farewell to their first and only Chancellor. Thank you kindly for coming. We do obviously have to thank Nicolina, because that kind of a voice is hard to come by. She's very talented and we appreciate it. We will, at the end of this, we will hear from Robert Pilon as he hopes you join him in the singing of O Canada, and thank him for his tremendous contribution, his musical talent, and a friendship that he shared with Hazel. It is Premier Ford who designated this on behalf of the province as a state funeral, with all the honor that bestows on Hazel McCallion. Premier Ford, on behalf of the McCallion family and all of us in Mississauga, we want to mention and thank you for all your ongoing attention in the last month to not only the family, but clearly to Hazel and all her needs, whether they were difficult to achieve or not. You were there for her, and I know they all appreciate it. And one more thing, Premier Ford. If the passing of Hazel McCallion was inevitable, we have you, by your attendance today, but also by declaring this to be a state funeral and sending in enormous, credible, experienced, capable, talented people to pull this together over the last 2 weeks. You've lessened our burden through your kind of acts of kindness and the dedication of the province and its incredible staff to make this all happen. We appreciate, and I don't think we can say thank you enough. I think we're going to hear an announcement about leaving.
Ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the Honor Guard, made up of Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services, Peel Regional Police, Peel Regional Paramedic Services, and Amassed Pipes and Drums, are now leaving their seats to reform the Honor Guard, which will bid a final farewell to Mayor McCallion as the cortege leaves Paramount Centre. We ask you to remain in your seats as this will be shown on the screens.
Mesdames et messieurs, les hommes et les femmes de la garde d'honneur quittent maintenant leur siège pour reformer le garde d'honneur qui fera un dernier adieu au maire McCallion alors que le cortège quitte le centre Paramount. Nous vous demandons de rester à votre place car cela sera affiché sur les écrans.
Please remain seated while the platform party, when they begin to leave the platform party, the pallbearers, the honor guard, please remain seated until they've departed. We are now going to hear from the Sheridan Choral Singers with their final song, How Great Thou Art.
And now, please rise as you are able for the national anthem and for the departure of the cortege and dignitaries. We kindly ask you remain in place until we advise that the motorcade has departed. You will be able to view the departure on the screens. O Canada will be sung by award-winning stage, television, and recording artist, vocalist, and friend of the late Mayor McCallion, Mr. Robert Pilon.
Et maintenant, veuillez vous lever comme vous le pouvez pour l'hymne national et pour le départ du cortège et des dignitaires. Nous vous prions de bien vouloir rester sur place jusqu'à ce que nous vous informions du départ du cortège. Vous pourrez regarder le départ sur les écrans. Le Haut-Canada sera chanté par le chanteur primé et ami du feu maire McCallion, M. Robert Pilon.
Consider all the works thy hand hath made. I see the stars, I hear the mighty thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When through the woods and forest glades I wander, I hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees. When I look down from a lofty mountain grandeur and hear the brook and feel the gentle breeze, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to
ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats and turn your attention to the screens for the departure of the motorcade.
Mesdames et messieurs,
as dignitaries make their way out from Premier Ford to Mayor Bonnie Crombie of Mississauga to the Prime Minister and the former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien as well. Let's now bring in CP24's Beatrice Vaisman, who joins us live from Mississauga with more. Beatrice.
Arda, we just finished listening to a 2-hour tribute to former Mississauga Mayor Hazel McCallion, who dedicated her life to public service, to her community, to the people here in the city of Mississauga, growing it essentially from a small enclave to one of the largest cities in this country. The speeches really from people who've been a part of Hazel McCallion's life in many different ways. We heard from one of her closest friends, Fran Ryder, the president of the Ontario Women's Hockey Association, who also took over as one of Hazel McCallion's caregivers in the last few weeks of her life. She moved into the home with her, talking about how much not only the sport of hockey meant to her, how pivotal she was in terms of raising the profile of women's hockey in general. And then we also heard stories about how she balanced her role as a mother with her role as not only a political figure, but someone really who was revered by politicians, especially all across the country, someone who political leaders of all stripes looked to for advice. We're now watching as the dignitaries are starting to make their way to the front steps here at the Paramount Fine Food Center. We're seeing at the front Hazel McCallion's children. On the left side of your screen, Peter McCallion, her son, directly behind him, Linda, her daughter, and then we've also got other members of Hazel McCallion's family, along with Premier Doug Ford and his wife Carla, Fran Ryder, who I was mentioning from the Ontario Women's Hockey Association, standing right next to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who also spoke quite poignantly during the service, describing a chance meeting that he had with Mayor Hazel McCallion in Europe. They met by chance in a small hotel, and they really took the opportunity to get to know each other pretty well. I mean, Trudeau mentioned the fact that it felt strange to be here today because Hazel McCallion was unstoppable, and he felt as though she would really live forever. Let's pause for a moment here, Arda, to listen in to what we're going to hear. So here's what's going to happen, Arda. These dignitaries lined up on the steps here of the Paramount Fine Food Center. Right now, Mayor McCallion's casket is being loaded into the hearse. The hearse will drive by the main road here with our first responders lining the roadway in salute. So these dignitaries, members of Hazel McCallion's family, will be watching as that salute happens, as the procession carrying the hearse with her body drives past the Paramount Fine Food Center one more time after this 2-hour ceremony paying tribute to a woman who's a legend amongst political circles, one of the longest serving mayors in this country's history. And it's quite interesting here as well to see former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien joining this lineup on the left side, standing directly next to Mississauga's Mayor Bonnie Crombie. They just shared an embrace a moment ago. They've all been brought here together by one woman for one reason, and it's to pay homage to her. She was the one who selected who would be speaking at her service. She was the one who selected the songs and the hymns that would be read aloud and shared with members of the audience, which included little pieces from different parts of her life, including Sheridan College and World Vision. And so the statements made here today really painted a picture of who Hazel McCallion was. I mean, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau shared an anecdote about going ziplining with Mayor McCallion in one of the highest or scariest zip lines in the world, in Europe. If we can, I'd like to share that with our viewers as we await for the hearse to go through this procession again with the salute. Here's what the Prime Minister said during the service.
It feels a little strange to be here today. Hazel was so unstoppable, I think we all felt she was going to live forever. Last time I spoke with her was just a couple of weeks ago. We talked about how the North American Leaders Summit went. She told me I had to keep pushing hard for Canadian jobs and workers during President Biden's upcoming visit to Canada, and of course I said I would. It was impressive that she was still working hard herself and always putting people first.
He spoke also about the fact, Arda, that Hazel McCallion worked hard, delivered every day for people. She was not only a business person, but she was also an athlete, one of the longest serving mayors in this country. He talked about the fact that despite, courting by different prime ministers, different premiers, she never had an interest in running for provincial or federal politics because she said that she wouldn't be any good at towing the party line. And so that's why she never seeked a different level of office outside of municipal politics. The prime minister sharing that he quickly realized that if she was to run federally, for example, he would be the one serving in her cabinet, not vice versa. That's just a testament to the kind of political leader and leader, period, quite frankly, that Hazel McCallion was.
And certainly, Beatrice, she was unstoppable. When the Prime Minister was sharing that story about them ziplining during one of the most difficult, longest zip lines in the world in Italy, she was in her mid-80s, and he said that not only was she the oldest politician, she was one of the oldest people to ever do that. So certainly physically, she was also unstoppable. And up until last year, when she couldn't drive anymore, her son would take her to whatever meetings, whatever events that she wanted to attend. She was working until the very end.
She absolutely was, and long after she retired from politics officially, when she was 93 years old, that's when she gave up the mayor's chair. She was still working day in and day out, holding meetings, lunch meetings, breakfast meetings. She would go to every event that she was invited to, Arda. That's how ingrained she was just in day-to-day life, not only here in Mississauga, but elsewhere across the province. I mean, Premier Ford invited essentially Hazel McCallion to serve as a special advisor on municipal affairs. And as we heard the family spokesperson say, she gladly accepted the role, though felt she didn't want to have any compensation because she thought it'd be easier to criticize the government if she wasn't paid for it. So through that role, I mean, she clearly kept a sharp, active political mind, had her hand in everything, and served as an advisor to so many political leaders who came after her. Jean Chrétien actually was one of the guests that Hazel McCallion personally wanted here. She requested to have him here. Admiring him, they developed quite the friendship over the years, and he also delivered a eulogy and a tribute at today's service. Here's what he said.
It's very rare in a country that we have a personality like Hazel McCallion. 36 years in politics. Oh, I beat her, but as a mayor. I was a little bit more than that as member of parliament. But she was always an example. She was unique. It was energy all the time when she was there. And I think she will be missed.
There's no question she will be missed, and we're showing you live pictures on our screen now as well of the casket of the late Mayor Hazel McCallion being loaded into the hearse. It will not be long now until that hearse makes its way from the back of the building here at the Paramount Fine Food Center and will come through the lineup of our first responders here gathered on the road who are ready to send off the matriarch of this city, along with members of Hazel McCallion's family, children and family members in the front row, pillows with the flag as well. Her son Peter McCallion here holding his hat with the flag that was draped over Hazel McCallion's casket, the Canadian flag. And then you've got political leaders of all party stripes. Prime Minister Trudeau, former Prime Minister Sean Chrétien, Mississauga's Mayor Bonnie Crombie, Premier Doug Ford. They are all here to pay tribute to the same person who in one way or another touched their lives over the years, Arda.
And the funeral, the state funeral, opened with her good friend saying the words, "Do your homework," something that Hazel McCallion would always say. And she reigned for 36 years in office, retiring at the age of 93. Beatrice, what does it say about her that she actually had a hand in planning her own state funeral?
I think it speaks to the fact that she was very much in control and liked to be in control, Arda. She really sprinkled her own little touches on everything in this service. It's almost really as if she planned it herself exactly the way she would have wanted it. A celebration of her life and the different aspects of it. And you mentioned the saying, "Do your homework." That's what she was famous for saying always as she met with different political wannabes or political leaders. She always told them, do your homework, know who you're going to talk to, know why you're there for this event, know what you're going to talk about. And I was quite moved as well when I was at Sunday morning in the Great Hall at Mississauga City Centre where Mayor McCallion was lying in repose. There was a t-shirt directly in front of her casket that said, "Do your homework," and right next to it there was little bobbleheads that Hazel McCallion loved quite dearly as well. The Premier today talking about a little kind of a bobblehead inside of a race car that she gave him at one of their last meetings that said, "To my favorite Premier, love Hazel McCallion," and that's a bobblehead that the Premier showed us here on CP24 the day of her passing through tears as well. He recounted as well today the last, I guess, a few exchanges he had with Mayor McCallion, providing not only support, emotional support, physical support to the family. He held Mayor McCallion's hand for 2 hours the night before she passed. He talked about the friendship that they developed, the way she always offered sage and generous advice every time he turned to her as well, Arda. So this was a friendship that kind of developed slowly but surely, and they were very, very close at the very end. We're now hearing the bagpipes starting to play here just across from the Paramount Fine Food Center. As I imagine the hearse is now on the move. I don't have a vantage point seeing it directly, but I imagine it's now making its way towards the front of the Paramount Fine Food Center, Arda, after just a wonderful celebration for a woman who did so much for this community. I'm going to pause here and listen in as we prepare for the hearse to pass right by us.
Okay, I see. Are you getting us now? Are you recording? Are you recording now? Okay. Okay.
You've been watching live as the hearse carrying the body of Hazel McCallion departed the Paramount Fine Food Center here, saluted by our first responders, members of the RCMP, Peel Police, various other emergency services, as dignitaries, including Premier Doug Ford, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, former PM Jean Chrétien, and Mississauga's Mayor Bonnie Crombie watched on. We're watching them embrace now, essentially saying goodbye to each other. Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Dowdeswell here as well. The family of Hazel McCallion, her 3 children, Paul, Peter, and Linda, all getting into the vehicle directly behind the hearse as the funeral service for Hazel McCallion concludes here in the city of Mississauga. You've been watching all the live action here on CP24. Arda, back to you.
Thank you so much for this, Beatrice. It's now 1:56, 8 degrees. You're watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24. More news straight ahead with Bakari Savage. Stay with us.